Rokuro was once the strongest exorcist trainee in the entire country, until the night every single one of his friends transformed into monsters and killed each other inside their own dormitory, leaving him as the only survivor of the worst exorcist tragedy in history. The whole world blamed him and forced him to spend years carrying the guilt of friends he never even hurt. Then one day, the chief exorcist drags him into a room with the strongest female exorcist in the country and reveals the shocking truth. The two of them are the legendary twin star exorcists, prophesied to marry each other and give birth to the strongest exorcist. However, before any of this, at Hanaharu Dormitory in Kyoto, Binio gets herself ready when an old woman informs her that it is finally time for her trip to Tokyo. She starts thinking that being called there so suddenly must mean that the others have finally recognized how much she has grown as an exorcist. Even so, the thing bothering her the most is the fact that there is another exorcist whose power is said to be even greater than her own. The next day, Rokuro spends his time flirting with another girl like he usually does, but she rejects him in a very harsh way. Meanwhile, Binio gets on a train, but strange creatures suddenly attack during the ride. Without wasting any time, she uses her powers to open the Megano Gate so she can fight the monsters herself. The moment this happens, Ryugo and the others sense the disturbance and begin preparing for an exorcism at Yokohama Station. Rokuro arrives there at the very last second, but instead of helping the group with the exorcism, he refuses to go along with them and quickly runs away. Inside the Megano Gate, Binio battles the creatures and defeats all of them, but after the fight ends, she suddenly falls down from the sky. At the same time, Rokuro looks up and notices her falling, so he rushes forward and catches her, and both of them crash into a river together. After they climb out of the river, Binio shows Rokuro a map of the place she wants to go, and after seeing her weird uniform, he agrees to help her find the way there. However, the two of them end up getting lost while searching for the destination, and during that time, they come across two children who are being attacked by the same strange creatures from before. Binio uses her Megano Gate powers to defeat the monster that is trying to attack the children, and Rokuro becomes surprised after seeing that she is actually a very strong exorcist. Right after that, even more monsters start appearing around them, but Binio uses her enchantment powers and defeats all of them at once without much trouble. After she finishes healing the injured children, another giant creature suddenly appears out of nowhere, and Rokuro quickly steps forward to protect the kids from getting hurt. During the fight, Binio's enchantments suddenly break apart, so it becomes Rokuro's turn to handle the monster himself. To everyone's surprise, Rokuro pulls out his talisman and uses his exorcism technique to destroy the monster in a single strike. Binio becomes shocked after seeing such a powerful attack and explains that she has never seen an ability like that before. Rokuro replies that this power is nothing but a curse, leaving her confused. Meanwhile, a strange man watches everything while laughing to himself after finding out that Binio and Rokuro are the twin star exorcists. After that, Rokuro tells Binio not to tell anyone about what happened today because he does not want to become an exorcist. Binio responds by stepping on his foot and saying the impurity was not even that strong, and that she could have defeated it by herself anyway. Then Binio opens the portal and they both return to the real world, where they keep arguing while walking. Before they separate, Binio properly introduces herself to him and then leaves, saying they might meet again in the future. While walking through the street, Rokuro suddenly realizes that he lost his bag in the river while he was trying to save Binio. Since he now has no money left, he starts feeling angry at Binio. That night, Rokuro goes back to his dorm and is shocked when he finds out that Binio is also staying there. An old man tells him to treat her nicely because from today she will be living at Psychodorm as an exorcist. The next morning, Rokuro wakes up from a strange dream, and when he opens his eyes, he sees Binio sitting right in front of him. She tells him to come to the Megano world with her immediately so they can have a duel, because his strength has hurt her pride. However, Rokuro refuses to go with her, and even after receiving threats from her, he kicks her out of his room. Outside, Binio sees other exorcists heading out to fight an impurity, so she decides to join them as well. She ends up defeating the impurity completely on her own, and after the battle, they all return to the normal world. Once they are back, Ryugo asks Binio if she really fought a monster together with Rokuro. When Binio explains that Rokuro was actually very strong, Ryugo says that she might be the only person capable of changing him back into the person he used to be. Later on, the chief exorcist Arima suddenly appears at the dorm while wearing nothing except his plot armor. After arriving, He gathers all the exorcists together and orders one of them to call all the regional leaders to the 5-mirror chamber. Once everyone arrives at the meeting place, Arima announces that Miko, the strongest exorcist, will someday destroy all the monsters, leaving everybody shocked by the news. The exorcists begin wondering who Miko really is, and Arima first calls Binio to step onto the stage, causing everyone to believe that she is Miko. Right after that, Arima also calls Rokuro forward, leaving him completely confused because he thinks Arima has made some kind of mistake. Arima then explains to everyone that Binio is the strongest exorcist in all of West Japan, while Rokuro is the strongest exorcist in East Japan. To their surprise, Arima announces that they are going to fight each other with their full strength. The fight starts off with Binio attacking Rokuro, but he avoids it until Arima mentions his dead friends. They continue to fight with everything they got for a while until Arima stops them and apologizes to Rokuro for mentioning his friends. In the end, he reveals that Rokuro and Binio are the twin star exorcists who are supposed to marry each other and give birth to Miko. The next day, Rokuro wakes up thinking that he is never going to marry a girl like Binio or have a kid with her. Just then, other people show up in the kitchen and start making fun of Rokuro for doing chores together with her. Binio becomes very angry and tells them that she would never marry someone like Rokuro anyway because he does not even want to be an exorcist. Ryugo then arrives and tells Rokuro that he is going on an exorcism mission with the others, so he wants Rokuro to help take care of Binio from now on since she has transferred to his school. Later at school, Rokuro is shocked when he finds out that Binio is in the same class as him. At the same time, Ryugo and the others are still fighting monsters, and they eventually manage to defeat them. Back at school, Rokuro is in his PE class, where he is trying hard to become the next Ronaldo of the Japan team. During lunch, Mayura tells Rokuro to go find Binio since she has not seen her after PE class. However, Binio is eating her lunch alone on the rooftop when she suddenly notices danger nearby. She decides to leave the school right away, and when Rokuro asks her about it, she tells him that Ryugo and the others are currently fighting a monster. Back in the portal world, Ryugo and the rest are struggling hard against the monster and are hoping that Rokuro or Binio will come to help them. Just then, Binio arrives and uses her enchantment powers to attack the huge monster. Even so, the monster shakes the entire area, which causes the portal to malfunction, and the impact hits one of the rides at the amusement park in the real world. Rokuro is also at the amusement park because Mayura brought him there to cheer him up, and he suddenly notices 2 boys in danger on the damaged ride. Without thinking, he rushes in and saves them just in time. On the other hand, Binio manages to kill the monster using her ability, and now Ryugo is firm that she is going to bring Rokuro back. On their way back, Rokuro thanks Mayura for everything she did for him today, and he appreciates her efforts. Mayura replies that she still thinks he is the coolest when he is pushing forward without hesitation. When he gets back to the dorm, Ryugo and the others tell him that Binio was so amazing that she used so many techniques that executed flawlessly. Binio then notices dirt on Rokuro's clothes and asks him about it, but he refuses to tell anything. The next day, Rokuro gathers everyone and tells them that some of them are going to do exorcisms and submit a report. He then asks Binio and Rokuro about their schedule, and Binio says that she is going to clean her swords while Rokuro wants to spend some time alone. Ryugo then becomes angry at Rokuro and tells him that instead of wasting time, he should focus more on studying because his grades have started dropping lately. Feeling annoyed by this, Rokuro runs out of the house while thinking about how much he hates that strict and annoying side of Ryugo. Later on, Ryugo and the other 2 exorcists arrive at their destination to perform an exorcism. Kozaki then explains the dark history of the old house, saying that the owners died there and after that, their son decided to rent the house out to other people. However, after some time, people who stayed there started disappearing one after another, including a group of 5 students, a newly married couple, and even a family with 2 children. The trio decides to split up so they can search for clues more quickly, and while searching, they come across a room filled with strange energy. The group quickly enters the Magano portal, where they discover a giant impurity with 2 heads waiting inside. The monster suddenly attacks Kazuki and Atsushi with so much force that both of them are thrown back into the real world, leaving Ryugo alone to face the creature by himself. After that, they quickly run back to the dorm and tell Rokuro everything that happened. As soon as he hears the news, Rokuro goes straight to Binio and explains that Ryugo was fighting an impurity but ended up getting lost inside the Magano world. He then drops to his knees and desperately begs Binio to help save him, which surprises her even more. Meanwhile, Ryugo is completely overwhelmed by the two-headed monster as it keeps beating him again and again without stopping. When he finally tries to escape, his leg gets stuck, causing him to get beaten up even more while the monster enjoys watching him suffer. Just before the creature can eat him, Rokuro suddenly arrives and starts fighting the monster himself. Surprisingly, Binio also shows up at the same time and takes care of the other monsters while Rokuro battles the two-headed one head-on. In the end, they successfully defeat all the monsters and return safely back to the dorm. That evening, Binio goes back to the old house in order to purify it properly, and after she comes outside, she notices Rokuro sitting there waiting for her. Rokuro thanks her for helping him out with the fight, and Binio also cheers him up. In Kyoto, Arima tells the exorcists in a meeting that the impurities are appearing all over Japan, but the exception is in Narukami, where there is an exceptional appearance rate. He then assigns one of the exorcists specifically for this mission to investigate the situation. The next day, Rokuro visits Ryugo at the hospital to see how he is doing, and he even brings a bunch of snacks for him. While leaving the hospital, Rokuro starts wondering if he really has what it takes to become an exorcist. When he gets back home, he finds Binio making talismans while also teaching the others the proper way to write them. Rokuro decides to try writing one himself, but everyone immediately starts laughing at his terrible handwriting and asks if he has ever even made a talisman before. Just then, the old man suddenly reports that around 20 impurities have appeared in the southern area, and the group quickly becomes nervous because Ryugo is still stuck in the hospital. Even so, Binio confidently says that she will act as the leader for now. Soon after, the entire group gets into the van, including Rokuro, who acts like he is not interested but still decides to go with them anyway. Upon reaching, the group finds out that a group of school children have gone missing. After that, Binio opens the portal where they find small impurity running after the school children. Rokuro arrives just in time and manages to save one of the students right before the monster can eat him. At the same time, Binio shows off her incredible speed by taking down a bunch of monsters one after another, but even that is still not enough to stop all of them. The group manages to defeat several monsters. Another exorcist quickly steps in and finally opens the portal, allowing all of the children to safely escape from the area. However, to everyone's surprise, Rokuro suddenly gets grabbed by one of the monsters that tries to eat him alive. Luckily, the exorcist assigned by Arima to Kyoto appears just in time and saves Rokuro before anything bad happens. He easily defeats the monster and then introduces himself as Ikaruga, the youngest member of the 12 Guardians. After that, Ikaruga openly shows his dislike toward Rokuro and even punches him in the face while asking why someone like him came to Magano in the first place. Just then, another monster suddenly appears, and this time Rokuro shocks Ikaruga by revealing his true strength and destroying the monster with one powerful strike. Ikaruga then notices a strange guy and receives a call from Arima, who orders him to return back to Kyoto right away. The next day, Binio leaves the school early, and Rokuro wonders if she is going after another impurity. Mayura notices that and wonders where she always goes when she leaves early. It turns out that Binio goes to help Kazuki and Atsushi because they are struggling badly against the monsters. The following day, Mayura approaches Binio at school and tries to get closer to her by saying that she wants to spend the whole day sitting together with her. However, Binio ignores her completely and walks away without saying much, but Mayura refuses to give up and keeps following her everywhere she goes. After some time, Mayura honestly tells Binio that she wants to become her friend, but Binio replies that she does not want any friends because of the kind of situation she is living in. Mayura then says that she knows Binio is dealing with some dangerous people and wants to help her somehow. Binio simply removes Mayura's hand from her shoulder and walks away again. On her way back home, Rokuro comes up to her and ends up arguing with one of her spirit pets. Later back at the dorm, everyone starts having a big party with lots of delicious food because Ryugo has finally been discharged from the hospital. During that, Ryugo says that they still have to go for another exorcism tomorrow and Binio is going to join them. Hearing this, Rokuro decides to join as well and says that since Ryugo will be weak because of his treatment, he can help take over the mission. The next day, everyone wakes up early to go for the exorcism, except Rokuro, who wakes up late and misses the start. After that, Binio goes out for a run, thinking that Ryugo told her to let Rokuro handle this mission on his own. While running, Binio runs into Mayura, who is also trying to lose weight. Meanwhile, Rokuro is already fighting the monster and uses his skills to deal with it. Mayura then takes Binio to a restaurant so they can eat something together. But before they even start eating, the whole restaurant suddenly begins to shake. When Binio goes outside, she finds a strange portal where impurity are fighting with Rokuro. Binio notices a man being attacked and almost eaten by several monsters, so she quickly opens the portal and enters to save him. After rescuing the man, Binio returns to the real world, where Mayura hugs her tightly because she was very scared. Later, Rokuro and the others finish their exorcism mission and return to the dorm, where they find Mayura waiting there. While having a conversation, Mayura gets furious when she finds out that Rokuro and Binio have been living in the same place. Later, Arima arrives at the dorm and tells them that Rokuro and Binio's trial is going to begin very soon, which immediately surprises both of them. The next day, Arima takes them somewhere in his van, and Rokuro gets more and more annoyed because he has no idea where they are being taken or what is waiting for them. After some time, they finally arrive at a huge luxury mansion that used to be Arima's vacation house. He then proudly shows them around the place, including a swimming pool, a private gym, and many other expensive-looking facilities that make Rokuro even more confused. To their shock, Arima even takes them to a honeymoon suite room with a giant bed made just for the two of them, which makes the situation even more awkward. After that, Arima announces that they will now live together in this mansion as part of a plan to help give birth to Miko, the legendary exorcist. Once he takes Miko's spirit pet with him, Arima leaves the mansion without giving them much explanation. As soon as Rokuro and Binio step into one of the rooms, everything suddenly begins to change and the floor starts tilting in strange directions. Arima then appears on a screen and explains that this is part of their trial, and if they want to pass it, they must learn to work together properly as a team. Rokuro notices that they need to climb over different objects to reach a screwdriver hanging above them. Both of them keep trying again and again, but they keep failing every time because their coordination is very poor. They try several times but still cannot succeed. Eventually, they somehow manage to reach the vent, and at that moment Rokuro receives a call from Atsushi, who tells him that a powerful monster has suddenly appeared and they need help. Rokuro keeps crawling through the vent and finds a computer that shows a riddle, and they must solve it correctly in order to escape. Surprisingly, Rokuro figures out the correct answer, and they manage to get out of the vent. After that, they arrive at the Megano portal and defeat the monsters on their own. Once everything is over, Binio realizes that one of her special hairpins is missing, so she starts panicking. She searches all over the broken ground, but she still cannot find it. Rokuro then takes her back to the mansion and later finds the hairpin inside the vent they were crawling through earlier. Binio tells him that the hairpin was given to her by her brother, so it is very important to her. Later that night, Binio opens up and tells Rokuro about her twin brother, who was an exorcist so strong that he was even better than her. She explains that one day she received the news that her brother died during an exorcism. After hearing this, Rokuro also shares his own past and backstory with her in return. When they are done, they go back to sleep as usual instead of making Miko just as Arima wanted. The next day, Mayura arrives at the mansion and gets shocked to see that Binio and Rokuro have been living together. When they explain that they are supposed to marry and have a child, she freaks out even more, wondering how they agreed to this. Rokuro tells her that they are being forced to do all this by Arima, the chief of the exorcist. Upon hearing that, Mayura freaks out and asks Rokuro if he is not thinking of being an exorcist again. Rokuro tells her that he has already become an exorcist once again, and she gets mad at him since she doesn't want him to go through so much pain again as it hurts her. Binio then says that it's true that Rokuro has doubts about being an exorcist, but his actions have saved people's lives. She further says that he deserves praise for overcoming his past and standing up again. After that, both girls ask Rokuro what he truly wants to do with his life, and Rokuro replies that if he has the power to protect people, then that is what he wants to use it for. Hearing those words makes Mayura emotional, and she quietly decides to leave afterward. While walking away, she starts thinking about Rokuro's painful past, including how his friends died and how he once dreamed of becoming the strongest exorcist. Back at the mansion, Rokuro and Binio suddenly realize that Mayura dropped the charm that was supposed to protect her from monsters. To their shock, they discover that one of the impurities has already dragged Mayura into the other world. At that moment, Rokuro suddenly appears and punches impurity directly in the face, saving Mayura before she can fall any farther. Rokuro and Binio continue fighting the monster together, but no matter what they do, they cannot land a serious attack on it. Just when things start looking hopeless, Rokuro's master suddenly appears and defeats the monster instantly with a single powerful technique. The master's name is Seigen, and after arriving, he immediately challenges Rokuro to a duel. At the same time, Otami explains to the others about something called impurity corruption, where a person with strong spiritual power can slowly turn into an impurity themselves. He also mentions that the very first known incident was the Hinatsuki tragedy that happened 2 years ago, and Rokuro was the only person who survived that disaster. One of the people there then reveals that Binio's brother was also among the trainees who died during the attack. Meanwhile, Rokuro fights against Seigen, but he gets completely overpowered and badly beaten during the duel. During the fight, Seigen keeps reminding Rokuro about what happened 2 years ago, which makes Binio curious and confused about the whole situation. Seigen then explains that 2 years earlier, a terrible disaster happened at the Hinatsuki dorm when monsters suddenly appeared and killed all of the trainees living there, while Rokuro somehow became the only survivor. Binio becomes even more interested after hearing this because her brother was also one of the people staying there at that time. However, Seigen suddenly reveals the shocking truth that there was actually no monster attack at all, and that every single person there was killed by Rokuro himself. After that, Rokuro admits that everything Seigen said is actually true, and hearing that only makes Binio even more furious than before. She immediately pulls out her weapon and challenges Rokuro, but Seigen stops her and tells her to lower her sword because there is still more to the story that she does not know yet. Just then, a mysterious man suddenly appears, and it turns out that both Rokuro and Seigen already know him very well. The man explains that he only came there to speak with Rokuro, and everyone is shocked to discover that he is actually Binio's brother, Yuto, who was believed to be dead all this time. Rokuro becomes furious the moment he sees him and demands to know why he is still alive, but Yuto casually jokes about their past together, which causes Rokuro to completely lose control of his emotions. Rokuro rushes straight toward him in anger, but Yuto easily uses his technique to completely tie him up and then says that Rokuro still remembers that strange night very clearly. In a flashback, Yuto and Rokuro are shown as the strongest among their group of friends, and the other kids all looked up to them and wanted to become just like them someday. Since Rokuro was not home that day, Yuto decided to train the others himself, saying that it would help make them just as strong as the two of them. He then gathers all of them inside a single room and secretly begins using some kind of dark magic through his strange techniques. Just then, Rokuro returns to the house and asks where the others are, so a girl tells him that they are all in Yuto's room. Suddenly, they hear a loud noise and find one of the girls laying completely dead on the floor. Rokuro then finds another girl crying badly and saying that something really terrible is going to happen. She even mentions that she doesn't want to become an impurity, which surprises Rokuro even more. Suddenly, she becomes a massive impurity, and following that, everyone in the house starts to transform into an impurity. Back in present, Binio is confused and asks Seigen how someone can become impurity, and he tells her about impurity corruption, which was found by exorcists turning themselves into impurity to gain unworthy power. He also tells Binio that the person responsible for everything was not Rokuro, but actually her own brother Yuto. Hearing this completely shocks Binio because she always believed that her brother was a kind and special person who would never hurt anyone. At that moment, Yuto starts mocking her, while Seigen explains that Yuto had been fooling everyone around him the entire time. Binio becomes completely heartbroken after hearing the truth, and seeing her break down causes Rokuro to lose control of his emotions. He breaks free from the restraints holding him back and charges directly at Yuto in anger. Rokuro then fully masters the talisman technique and uses it to attack Yuto, but Yuto easily dodges the attack. Rokuro keeps trying to fight him with even greater power, but Yuto still manages to overpower him and push him back. Eventually, Binio decides to risk her own life in order to stop Rokuro before things get even worse. After that, Yuto asks Rokuro to become one of his followers, but Rokuro immediately refuses and even calls Yuto stupid for believing he would ever agree to something like that. Once Yuto finally leaves, everyone returns to the real world, where Binio apologizes to Rokuro for making his life so difficult and painful. The following day, Rokuro keeps thinking about what happened yesterday when he and Binio went to Seigen and asked him to train them so they could become stronger. However, Seigen immediately refused their request, saying that he does not have the time to train them, and then he simply walked away. Back in the present, Binio suddenly shows up in the bathroom and tells Rokuro to get out because she needs to use it herself. After leaving, Rokuro walks into the living room and finds a beautiful woman calmly sipping tea while flowers are scattered all around her. Just then, Binio comes back and calls the woman Subaru, revealing that she was once her master. Binio then explains to Rokuro that Subaru is actually one of the 12 guardians and holds the title of Tenko, also known as the goddess. Subaru then starts teasing the two of them by asking how married life has been going for the newlyweds, which completely freak Rokuro out. He quickly shouts that neither he nor Binio ever agreed to get married in the first place. Even after hearing all of this, Rokuro still doubts that Subaru is strong enough to train them properly, but Binio reminds him that there is obviously a reason why Subaru became one of the powerful 12 guardians. Hearing that, Rokuro becomes excited and asks Subaru to train them as hard as possible so they can become stronger. To their surprise, Subaru actually agrees to train both of them and even gives them a special training schedule to follow. However, the schedule turns out to be very strange because instead of serious combat training, all they have to do is go shopping together and act like a real couple. After finishing their shopping, they are even told to hold hands, which becomes very difficult for Rokuro because he has spent most of his life as a loner and is not used to things like that. Eventually, Binio asks Subaru if Arima was the one who told her to make them do all of this, and it turns out that Arima really is behind the entire plan. Feeling frustrated, Rokuro and Binio decide to forget about the training for a while and go eat some ohagi, which happens to be Binio's favorite food. While they are peacefully enjoying their meal, a Megano gate suddenly opens nearby, and they discover impurity trying to break through into the real world. Rokuro and Binio immediately try their best to fight the monsters, but Rokuro struggles badly because he already used most of his energy during his earlier fight against Yudo. Before long, the two of them become trapped by the monsters, but Subaru suddenly appears, destroys the impurity with ease, and saves them both. When they return home, they are shocked to see that Subaru has redesigned their room so that they can work on nightly marital activity. The next morning, Rokuro and Binio are tasked to do some picture knitting, and Rokuro is frustrated because of this. Binio tells him that there must be a reason behind this, saying since his arm was injured because of Yudo, Subaru wants him to dedicate his daily training to improve his focus. Rokuro then makes fun of Binio's picture that she knitted, and she shows him how good it is but ends up revealing her glorious skirt. Later, Rokuro makes tea for Subaru, who asks him for tea cakes, so Binio shows up with some. She then asks Rokuro to give a shoulder massage, but he gets furious at her for wasting their time like that instead of training properly. He takes out his frustration, saying he has been losing control over himself so many times that leads to Binio saving him most of the time. However, Subaru tells him that the way they two are now, no amount of training is going to do any good, since they are too bad at understanding anything. Subaru suggests that they should play a game of hide and seek. She explains that if the two of them manage to find her before the sun sets, then they will win the game. Once the challenge begins, Rokuro and Binio start searching for Subaru all over the place, even checking inside the fridge and looking through different drawers around the house. While searching, Binio suddenly discovers some weird comics hidden away, which immediately makes her furious at Rokuro. Rokuro quickly tries to defend himself and comes up with all kinds of excuses to explain why he has those comics. After that, they discover another clue saying that couples are supposed to understand each other well. The two of them then head outside to continue searching for Subaru and begin looking everywhere they can think of. At one point, Binio notices an empty seat with a cup of tea still sitting on the table and figures out that Subaru must have been there recently. As they continue searching around the city, Binio mentions that her master has been trying to diet lately, so she might be at a gym or somewhere outside jogging. Soon after, they arrive at a fitness class where they spot someone who looks exactly like Subaru. However, they later discover another clue and leave the class, only to suddenly run into an impurity portal nearby. This time the impurity is like an octopus who uses dark smoke around them to confuse and disrupt their vision. The impurity continues to dominate until Subaru shows up, and she is happy to see them working together. Rokuro and Binio manage to destroy the monster together, and eventually they return home. Finally, Subaru gives her well wishes to them and leaves, leaving behind a note. The following day, Rokuro trains even harder, and now he is even stronger than he ever was. He then manages to blow the flames off using a single punch and thinks how he is able to control its spell power much better now. He also thinks about how there is no way he can beat Yudo if control is all he works on, so he needs to explore more training options. When he gets to the kitchen, he finds Binio working on an extremely disgusting meal that is supposed to be their dinner for the day. Rokuro becomes angry at Binio for making food like that and asks what kind of dinner she even had while growing up as a kid. Binio replies that her family always ate ohagi and curry together, which causes Rokuro to accidentally say something unnecessary about her family. After realizing that Binio seriously cannot cook at all, Rokuro tells her that from now on, he will be the one cooking dinner, and his meals will become the normal standard in this house. Meanwhile, Arima meets up with Ikaruga, who is protecting Kyoto by himself, and thanks to him and the other members of the 12 Guardians, everything has remained safe so far. At the same time, Binio is out doing her evening jogging when she notices a mother and daughter happily spending time together like a normal family. Seeing them makes Binio remember her own past, when her parents were once fighting a monster while casually talking about what they should eat for dinner afterward. Binio's parents managed to defeat the monster by themselves, and watching that made little Binio feel very happy and proud. Back in the present, Rokuro starts getting worried because it is becoming very late, but Binio still has not returned home yet. Suddenly, the sky gets dark where Binio is running, and her pet thinks that there might be impurity somewhere. After a while, Rokuro shows up where Binio was jogging but couldn't find her anywhere. It turns out, Binio is now fighting with an impurity inside the portal, and she manages to destroy the impurity. However, a strange guy whose name is Kamui appears from the impurity and kicks Binio. He then asks her where the twin star exorcists are and says that if she doesn't tell him in a count of 10, he is going to kill her. Binio thinks about her parents' death and goes after Kamui, who happens to dodge her moves. He manages to beat her up brutally and asks how she would like to die. Just then, Rokuro shows up and punches him away, and tells Binio that he wants to have dinner with her. After that, Binio tells Rokuro to get back, saying he shouldn't fight him because Kamui is not a normal impurity but a Basara. Meanwhile, Arima tells someone on the phone about Basara that looks like a human but are not human, and they are far stronger than any typical impurity. He also mentions that currently the Exorcist Union has confirmed the existence of a handful of Basara. Not only that, their skills are also phenomenal, and only someone on par with the 12 Guardians stands a chance. Back in the portal, Kamui notices Rokuro's arm and thinks that it's interesting. Before he could attack them again, a monster appears out of nowhere and tries to attack Kamui, giving time to Binio and Rokuro to escape. Rokuro uses his talisman to heal Binio's wound, and after that, she tries to walk back toward him but suddenly loses her balance and falls down. She then tells Rokuro that Kamui is the Basara who killed her parents many years ago. Binio explains that everything happened 6 years earlier, and ever since that day, she has been searching for Kamui so she could take revenge for her parents' deaths. However, Rokuro calls her an idiot and tells her that there is no way she can defeat someone like him if she keeps fighting recklessly like that. Rokuro then gives her the food he made for her and tells her to eat it so she can calm down and feel better. He also promises that he will help her become stronger so they can defeat Basara together someday. After saying that, Rokuro heads back into the portal to fight Kamui directly while Binio stays behind and quietly eats the meal he prepared for her. During the battle, Kamui shows incredible power and completely dominates Rokuro throughout the fight. Just before Kamui can finish him off, Binio suddenly arrives and attacks Kamui with her full strength, causing him to notice that she feels very different compared to last time. The two of them continue fighting together for a while, but they still get defeated very easily by Kamui. Soon, Kamui realizes that the two of them might actually be the twin stars because their powers and spells are resonating with each other. After discovering that, Kamui decides to spare their lives and says that he wants them to grow stronger so they can fight him again in the future. At Saika Dormitory, everyone starts writing their wishes on talismans because of the Tanabata festival, and one of the boys even invites Rokuro to join them. However, Rokuro has no idea what kind of wish he should write down for himself. A little later, Binio suddenly shows up carrying noodles for everyone while wearing a beautiful kimono, and the sight of her looking so pretty instantly makes Rokuro blush. After that, Rokuro starts speaking to Binio in a much kinder and friendlier way than usual, but the moment Mayura arrives looking really beautiful as well, she quickly becomes jealous and punches Rokuro out of annoyance. Soon after, Binio tells everyone that her biggest wish is for AniMaan to finally get a movie adaptation, but Rokuro has absolutely no clue who AniMaan even is. Binio's spirit pet then explains that AniMaan is a super cool and righteous superhero character that Binio created by herself and loves very much. Meanwhile, Ryugo and Kazuki talk about how Rokuro has started wanting to become an exorcist again, and they believe that Binio is the main reason behind that change. Later on, Rokuro asks Binio if she has finally decided on a wish, but even this time, she still wants something connected to AniMaan. When Mayura tells everyone to hang up their wish cards, Rokuro simply lies down on his back, showing the scar on his chest while saying that no wishes are ever going to come true for him anyway. However, Mayura suddenly notices a wound on Rokuro's stomach and becomes worried about him, thinking about how he has been acting completely normal and staying in the center of attention even while being badly injured. Meanwhile in Kyoto, Seigen and Ikaruga are relaxing in a bath together when Seigen tells him to prepare himself because a huge battle is going to begin very soon. Ikaruga also brings up Yuto and says that he cannot even imagine what Yuto is truly planning, which only makes the whole situation feel even more dangerous and unsettling. Seigen complains that he is already exhausted because now he has to clean up the mess caused by Rokuro and Yuto, whom he calls his idiot students. At the same time, Arima and Subaru are also taking a bath together while talking about Rokuro and Binio, and how difficult it must be to deal with the twin stars. Subaru explains that working together is extremely important for a couple, and despite all the struggles and arguments, she believes the two of them are slowly improving. Subaru then asks Arima if there is really any guarantee that Rokuro and Binio will have a happy future together even if they eventually get married. Meanwhile, Rokuro and Binio quietly watch the stars together while both of them awkwardly think about their future and what lies ahead for them. After that, Rokuro and Binio write their wishes, and argue about a useless topic once again. The following morning, Rokuro and Binio leave the house, only to get teased by Kazuki and his friend calling them a married couple since they are always together. When they enter the dorm, they find Seigen talking to an old man. Once he leaves, Rokuro asks the old man about Ryugo, and he says that he got a call from an exorcist from the IM branch and stepped out. At Hajuik Park, Ryugo meets with his friend who introduces him to a beautiful girl named Kaibara Haruka. The fellow exorcist tells Ryugo that she registered under IM branch but has no one to spend her day off with, and that's why he asked him over. Once the guy leaves, Haruka asks Ryugo if he is interested in art and takes him to an art gallery. The girl mentions that Ryugo is exactly how her friend described him and says that her friend always talked about him with a lot of praise. Ryugo replies that there is really nothing special about him, but Haruka says that she likes people who work hard without trying to act cooler or better than everyone else. On their way back home, Ryugo apologizes to her for wasting her entire day off by making her spend it with someone like him. However, to his surprise, Haruka suddenly asks him when they can meet again, completely catching him off guard. The next day, everyone at the dorm becomes shocked and furious after finding out that Ryugo actually went on a date, because they think it feels way too strange for a serious guy like him. A few days later, Haruka holds Ryugo's hand for the very first time, leaving him completely stunned and speechless. She happily tells him that holding hands is perfectly normal since they are already on a date together, and she simply could not wait any longer to do it. The following morning, Ryugo goes to the daycare where his friend works and asks him if it is really okay for someone like him to keep going out with Haruka. His friend explains that it is very important for a person to build a strong bond with someone special and that he needs to protect and value that connection carefully. That evening, a report arrives at the dorm that Ryugo's friend died in the Magano portal and they have no further clues. After that, Rokuro asks the old men if something bad is going to happen since Seigen is distancing himself and other bad things are happening. That night, Rokuro and Binio go to Magano portal to deal with an impurity. Soon, Rokuro finds out that it's a human, which means impurity corruption must have been the case, and he remembers about his dead friends. Getting furious, he attacks the monster but gets overwhelmed easily. Seigen then shows up and gets disappointed that they couldn't kill Basara, so he uses his talisman to kill him. Seigen then tells them to leave since they are not meant to be exorcists. It is then revealed that Impurity himself was Ryugo's friend. Since then, Rokuro and Binio have been having a difficult time because of what Seigen told them. At school, Mayura goes up to Rokuro and demands to know what is going on with him, saying he looks like he is completely out of it. Meanwhile, the old man expresses concern about Seigen handling so many difficult exorcism cases, including situations like Ryugo's friend, and thinks that the Exorcist Union never stops giving him terrible jobs. Seigen replies that it is his duty, and that it is easier for him to handle it himself than to let someone else suffer through it. The old man then asks about Rokuro and Binio, and Seigen simply says that they are both useless half-wits. Later, Seigen meets Mayura for coffee, and it is revealed that she is actually his daughter. Seigen says that he does not deserve to be called a father because he left home, but Mayura gets angry at him for saying something like that, telling him she understands why he made those choices. Before leaving, Seigen warns her to stay away from Rokuro as much as possible. That evening, Rokuro and Binio spend time in their mansion watching TV in silence instead of talking to each other. Later, Mayura arrives with groceries, saying she wants to cook a nice dinner for them. She cheers them up, and it lifts everyone's mood a lot. Soon they all start eating dinner together while still arguing and teasing each other at the same time. After that, Rokuro walks Mayura back home. On the way, Mayura suddenly becomes corrupted by impurity energy. They are quickly pulled into a portal, where Mayura transforms into an impurity and starts attacking both Binio and Rokuro. Since neither of them can handle the situation properly, Seigen appears and immediately blames Rokuro for always being at the center of every incident that happens. Seigen then fights Mayura directly, but even he struggles to fully purify her. Seeing how difficult it is, Rokuro asks Seigen if there is any other way to save Mayura. Seigen explains a technique called Furu no Kodo, which can only be performed by the twin stars together. After hearing this, Rokuro and Binio quickly take their positions and combine their power to use the technique. In the end, they successfully purify Mayura. Rokuro then breaks down in tears, thinking that if he had known about this technique earlier, he could have saved his friends who died in the past. Just then, Yudo shows up and starts mocking Rokuro as usual, saying he figured getting a powerful impurity to wreak havoc as that would be the best way to test how strong he is now. Rokuro gets furious and tries to go after him, but Seigen tells him to stay away, saying he should get Mayura and Binio away from here. Yudo then uses Air Fissure Bullet technique to attack Seigen. Yudo then says that killing him here will be his declaration of war against the Exorcist Union. Before the Air Fissure technique can hit him, Seigen instantly destroys it and then activates his maximum true form to fight Yudo directly. He charges forward to finish Yudo, but in an instant, Yudo lands a powerful punch on Seigen that knocks him down to the ground. Seeing this, Rokuro becomes furious and tries to rush at Yudo, but he is already at his limit and can barely even stand properly. Binio tells him that there is nothing they can do in this condition because both their bodies and spell power have already reached their limit. Yudo then charges toward Rokuro, but Seigen steps in and takes the attack directly, getting pierced through his body while still using a technique to protect the twin stars. After that, Seigen tells Rokuro and Binio to take Mayura and escape from Megano while he holds Yudo back. He also explains that there is no way to stop impurity corruption unless Yudo is defeated. Then Seigen uses his talisman and launches a final attack at Yudo, a move so powerful that even Rokuro loses control of himself for a moment while watching it. However, Yudo comes out completely unharmed, while Seigen is left seriously injured. Seeing this, Rokuro angrily rushes forward and punches Yudo straight in the head. Before leaving, Yudo calmly tells Rokuro that they should meet again tomorrow at the same time. That night, both Mayura and Seigen are admitted to the hospital, and Binio cannot believe that her own brother would do something so terrible. Later, the old man approaches Rokuro and informs him that a special unit is being formed specifically to eliminate Yudo, and that the members will come from the 12 Guardians. He also explains that Seigen never wanted Rokuro and Yudo to fight directly, so he acted like the villain in order to keep Rokuro away from Megano and protect him in his own way. The old man then takes out a briefcase and gives something important to Rokuro. When Rokuro gets back home, he opens the briefcase and finds a red Master Star armor talisman and a suit to become a real exorcist that Seigen always used to wear. Rokuro used to like his suit more, and Seigen told him that if he really wants to wear that, then he should prove that he is worth it. Rokuro then promises himself that tomorrow he is going to defeat Yudo, and he doesn't care about the 12 Guardians. When Binio opens the door to his room, she is shocked to see Rokuro wearing a black suit. He tells her that 2 years ago he lost everything, but after she came into his life, he felt like he was able to live again. Binio finally understands how determined he is to defeat her brother, and she tells him that when he goes to fight Yudo tomorrow, she will go with him too. Later, Rokuro goes to the training ground to practice because he only has 24 hours left before the final fight with Yudo. Binio also arrives there with spirit talismans she has written and saved over time, along with different weapons she has prepared. She suggests that they should first create a strategy and practice it properly so they can defeat her brother together. Binio then explains that using only talismans will not be enough, and they need to combine multiple techniques and talismans at the same time. She asks Rokuro what else he can use at the same time besides his arm power, and Rokuro hesitantly replies that he can only use one thing at once. Rokuro then starts practicing his moves, but Binio says that this is a waste of time since her brother's strength and power are on another level. She then suggests that their only option for this match is a technique that only they can use, which is called the resonance. Both of them then grab their hands together, which makes them look solid red like a tomato, and starts practicing their new technique. Once they are done training, Binio takes a shower where she thinks about her evil brother completely trapping her. Later, Binio wakes up from that terrible nightmare and decides to go outside for some jogging to clear her mind. During her run, she arrives at Yudo's house, where the old woman gives her some ohagi that was originally supposed to be delivered the next day. Seeing the ohagi makes Binio think about Rokuro, especially how he always says that she looks happiest whenever she is eating it. Even so, Binio refuses to eat the ohagi and admits that she feels completely confused about everything and no longer knows what she should do anymore. The old woman gently tells her that sometimes running away can be the best choice, and that she should avoid doing something she might regret later in the future. Before Binio leaves, the old woman gives her a small gift and tells her how much nicer and more mature she has become over time. When Binio finally returns home, she finds Rokuro sleeping on the training ground, and right in front of her, a massive wall suddenly breaks apart because of Rokuro's newly awakened power. The following morning, both Rokuro and Binio prepare themselves for their upcoming battle against Yuto. When Rokuro and Binio enter the portal, Binio becomes shocked after seeing that Yuto has chosen Hinatsuki Dormitory as the place for their fight. Yuto then walks inside the dorm building, and the two of them follow him until they reach a classroom where flowers have been placed on every desk belonging to the students who died there. Yuto coldly says that all of those students were nothing more than worthless clowns, just to provoke Rokuro and make him angry. He once again asks Rokuro to join his side, saying that if he agrees, then he will stop trying to kill him. However, Rokuro immediately refuses and says that he would rather die than ever join someone like him. Right after that, the battle begins, and Yuto suddenly punches Binio at incredible speed, sending her flying before Rokuro can even react. The attack completely surprises Rokuro, but Binio refuses to stay down for long and quickly gets back up before attacking Yuto with her talisman technique. Yuto becomes angry at her actions and calls her a foolish idiot for even thinking that she could attack him directly. At that moment, Rokuro uses his air bullet technique to fire attacks at Yuto, forcing him to dodge the shots. Yuto then rushes toward Rokuro while saying that fighting someone so useless feels like an insult to him. However, Rokuro and Binio quickly get into position and launch their powerful resonance attack together. The attacker finally manages to hit Yuto, and for the first time, his hand receives a slight injury. Right after that, Rokuro and Binio charge at him again and use another move called World End. Even after taking those attacks, Yuto still looks completely fine, without even a single scratch on the rest of his body. Seeing this makes Rokuro even more furious, so he decides to use Sagan's talisman in order to attack Yuto with greater power. After that, Binio joins him as well, and together they finally deal enough damage to force Yuto into transforming into his final form. A little later, Yuto changes back into his human form and explains that in order to maintain a human appearance, they need a way to control and contain the impurity power inside them. Suddenly, he starts coughing blood and drops down on his knees. At that moment, Rokuro tries to punch him, but Yuto manages to block the attack. Yuto then grabs Rokuro's arm tightly, which makes Binio rush in to attack him, but Yuto also pushes her back with another powerful strike. After that, Yuto breaks the hairpins he once gave her and coldly says that she does not deserve to live. Just then, Basara appears and asks Binio if she wants power to continue fighting, saying he can use impurity power to replace the legs she lost. Seeing Rokuro struggling and in pain, Binio tells Basara that she needs power. Kamui then transforms her into an impurity, and Rokuro's memories begin to swirl inside her mind as everything becomes chaotic. After that, Binio rushes at Yuto using her new move and lands a strong kick right to his face. She keeps attacking him without holding back, which surprises everyone, including Kamui himself, who notices that she is acting very differently than before. Binio continues kicking him with different techniques, but because she is still not fully strong yet, she eventually falls to the ground from exhaustion. At that moment, Yuto kicks her in the face and tells her it is obvious she is already out of energy so quickly, saying it is because Kamui was the one who gave her Basara powers in the first place. Yuto then steps on her head and says he could kill her instantly, but that would be too boring and would not satisfy him. Before he can finish her off, Rokuro manages to block the attack and steps in to protect her. When Rokuro tries to fight back, Yuto punches him directly in the chest and even dares him to try again. Even so, Rokuro pushes through the pain and manages to land a punch on Yuto's face, holding on with his last bit of strength despite being badly injured. Rokuro then uses a strange technique and punches Yuto in the face again, and after that he keeps attacking him, chaining his techniques one after another. Yuto responds by transforming into his dark form and going head-to-head with Rokuro, but neither of them backs down as they keep trading heavy blows. Eventually, Rokuro starts to struggle, but the memory of his dead friends pushes him past his limits, and he unleashes an even stronger attack on Yuto. Yuto is then thrown into a dark portal, and both Rokuro and Binio fall unconscious on the ground. Sometime later, they wake up in a hospital in Kyoto, and it takes them a while to recover and get better. The old man then arrives and takes them to Arima, who is waiting with 11 of the 12 guardians. Everyone is angry at them for acting recklessly and going after Yuto, but Rokuro explains that Yuto was targeting them and would have done anything to achieve his goal. However, Arima suggests that they should stop fighting and instead focus on the plan of giving birth to Miko. Hearing this, Binio and Rokuro both firmly tell him that they will handle and finish this situation on their own before Miko is even born. On the other side, Mayura goes to Sagan and asks him to train her so she can become an exorcist, saying she does not want to stay weak like a clown who cannot even protect herself. After the meeting ends, Rokuro and Binio go out together to spend some time having fun after a long while, and for once they try to just stay as they are instead of worrying about marriage or having a child so soon. While eating ohagi, Binio apologizes to Rokuro for everything that has happened between them. Rokuro then gives her a new hairpin and says it is not very expensive since it was just a prize from a shooting game stall. Binio puts on the hairpin, and Rokuro quietly thinks she looks even cuter than before. 2 years have passed, and now Haruka and Mayura are also fighting alongside Ryugo and the others. During one of the impurity missions, Rokuro and Binio, who have both become much stronger than before, show an amazing performance in battle. Mayura also helps them, and together they manage to defeat the monster quite easily. Binio tells her that in terms of spell power, she is now on equal footing with them. Suddenly, Mayura's own spell begins to wrap around her, so Rokuro and Binio immediately rush toward the still-living monster and defeat it together using their new combined technique. After everything is over, Binio's spirit pet tells her to hurry up or she will be late for school, and they all quickly change back into their school uniforms once they return. Meanwhile, Arima and the 12 guardians discover a massive hole in the ground, and Subaru's partner mentions someone named Kuranishi. Arima quickly realizes that only a Basara could be responsible for something like this. Finally, it becomes the first day of high school for Rokuro, Binio, and Mayura, and things seem to be going well for Rokuro since several girls start approaching him. Seeing this, Binio and Mayura talk about how Rokuro has changed, and Binio even mentions that he is still the same at home, doing dishes, cleaning, and handling other chores without complaint. Later that day, Binio tells Rokuro that she has seriously thought about having a baby, and she explains that over the past 2 years she has come to understand many good things about him and his personality. Rokuro agrees to have a child with her, and Binio becomes so excited that she cannot stop thinking about it the entire night. The next morning, the group enters the portal again to handle another impurity, but instead of a monster, they find a young child lost inside. They bring the child back with them and search through multiple police stations and hospitals, but there are no records or reports of any missing child. They even start wondering if an impurity might have pulled her into Megano, and if so, it is hard to understand how she managed to survive alone. The little girl then starts calling Rokuro her father and Binio her mother, and when they ask her name, she has no idea what it is at all. Rokuro comes up with an idea and suggests they should just call her Sei for now, and he even says he wants to bring her back to his and Binio's house. At the mansion, Sei keeps annoying both of them by running around everywhere, exploring every corner, and doing all kinds of strange and unexpected things. Before going to sleep, Binio tells the story about Ohagi Man, and the three of them eventually fall asleep after listening to it. The next morning, Rokuro, Binio, and Mayura are walking to school together while talking about Asahi and how they can ask her more questions once she is fully settled in. Soon after, they come across a group of people collapsing on the street due to a strange toxic gas spreading in the area. Upon checking the eyes of one of the victims, the group figures out that it could be caused by impurity corruption spreading inside the body. Mayura asks if the victims are turning into impurity as well, But Binio strongly disagrees and says it is actually the miasma in the air that is flowing through the area and causing the change. When they all look up above them, they see monsters walking around the city streets, which makes Rokuro question how impurity are even able to enter their world in the first place. At that moment, one of the monsters spots them, so Rokuro quickly uses his talisman, and Binio also powers up right away, and together they take the monster down and then continue defeating several more monsters in quick attacks. After that, Rokuro tells Binio that if this keeps going, the whole town will eventually turn into something like Megano. He then tells Mayura that they are going to search for the source of this strange and dirty air, and he asks her to inform Sagan about everything that is happening. Soon Mayura returns to the dorm and tells everyone that a strange and dirty feeling of air is spreading all over the town, and the situation is getting worse very fast. Sagan gets very angry and says that they do not have any time to waste or just mess around anymore. He then tells the older men to stay at the base and keep in touch with the Exorcist Union, while Ryugo and Haruka go into the town to remove and exorcise the impurity. At the same time in the town, a strange girl with pink hair is controlling the impurity that are spreading everywhere, and she even kills one normal civilian without showing any mercy at all. Soon after that, Rokuro and Binio find the main place where all this bad and dirty air is coming from, and the others also arrive there at the same moment. Rokuro then asks Sagan why he brings Sei here with them, and Sagan replies that he is curious about something important. Sagan then explains that in the old times there is a hole in the border between their world and Megano, and people used to call these places dragon spots. He also says that this kind of opening is different from the other borders he has sealed before, which makes the situation even more unusual and hard to handle. Rokuro then suggests that they should try sealing it anyway, since the town will likely return to normal if they succeed. At that moment, more monsters appear, and all the exorcists start using their powers to kill them, including a new Basara who joins the fight. She introduces herself as Suzu and keeps talking in a strange and confusing way, while also showing interest in Rokuro, Binio, and Sei. After the Basara eventually leaves, Rokuro and Binio work together and use their power to seal the barrier and stop the flow between the worlds. The next day, the media begins reporting on a mass infection that is spreading across the country, and people on social media start reacting wildly as the news quickly gains attention everywhere. Haruka then informs the group that they have received a request for assistance from the Chua branch in Shinshu. After hearing this, Sagan explains that they are dealing with the same kind of problem that Narukami faced not too long ago. However, he also points out that Rokuro and Binio are the only exorcists who have the ability to close the dragon spots that are causing the pandemic to spread. Because of this, Rokuro, Binio, and Issei continue traveling to different parts of the region to close the holes appearing throughout various areas. To make the journey easier, they use the RV that was found in the underground garage of the house. Mayura tries to join them on the mission, but Sagan stops her and explains that he has another important task that requires her full effort and attention instead. Mayura attempts to convince him by pointing out that Rokuro and Binio are heading into the familial harmony red zone, but her argument completely fails and Sagan refuses to change his mind. While traveling, Binio gives some ohagi to Sei and explains that these sweets are the source of power for the Ohagi Man. Before long, they arrive at their destination, which turns out to be a general hospital that has already been affected by the strange virus spreading through the city. At first, some people question and doubt Binio because of her connection to Yudo, the traitor, but she eventually proves herself through her actions and earns their trust. Just then, the captain of the unit shows up and introduces herself as Kiyomi. That night, Binio writes some talisman in the van while Rokuro sleeps like a child. When Binio's eyes close for a while, she notices that Sei is missing, so she goes into the forest to look for her. Binio then finds Sei drawing beside the captain Kiyomi and finally gets relieved. The next day, Kiyomi gives instructions to everyone on how they should deal with the monsters that are appearing around the area. During the operation, Rokuro and Binio show off their impressive teamwork and skills by taking down a monster together with ease. After that, the other exorcists spread out to fight the remaining monsters and work on closing the hole. While searching the area, the group discovers the bodies of several people lying near an impurity that is brutally eating them and throwing the remains onto the ground afterward. It soon becomes clear that this impurity is much stronger than the others. Kiyomi manages to hold it back for a short time, giving the exorcists a chance to attack it with everything they have. In the end, Rokuro and Binio manage to overpower it through their combined strength, and impurity is finally defeated. However, a Basara named Moro suddenly emerges from the defeated impurity and easily tears apart the talisman that was supposed to be used to seal the hole. Meanwhile, Sei finds a talisman that Binio accidentally left behind, so she heads to the location to return it. Once she arrives, Binio uses the talisman to successfully seal the hole. After everything is over, Binio becomes angry at Sei and scolds her for doing something so dangerous and coming to the battlefield by herself. Meanwhile, at the Narukami Community Center, Mayura helps treat the victims by using her talismans to support their recovery. However, she soon realizes that there is still no sign of the nationwide virus slowing down, which leaves her confused and concerned. One of the older exorcists explains that, by its nature, only exorcists can see the miasma spreading through the area. Because of that, they are unable to quietly deal with impurity and Basara without drawing attention, unlike how they would normally handle such situations. As a result, stopping the spread becomes much more difficult than usual. At the same time, Rokuro and Binio continue traveling toward the next dragon spot while driving along a badly damaged road. During the trip, Rokuro figures out that the dragon spot appears to be located near an amusement park. Since Sei has no idea what an amusement park is, Rokuro takes the time to explain it to her. He tells her that it is a place filled with many different rides and attractions, where people go to have fun and enjoy exciting experiences. After hearing this conversation, Binio realizes that Rokuro has never actually taken her to an amusement park before. The thought immediately annoys her, and she becomes angry at him for overlooking something like that. When the group arrives at the amusement park, they are warned by two people that a monster with a threat level known as True Serpent is wandering somewhere inside the park. At that moment, Rokuro suddenly notices that Sei is nowhere to be seen and realizes that she has gone missing. It turns out that Sei is already inside the amusement park, happily trying out different rides on her own, and the monster roaming the area seems to have taken an interest in her. Before long, Rokuro finds them and immediately attacks the monster, believing that it is a Basara. However, the monster introduces himself as Leo and tells them that they should simply stay away from him, saying it in a serious but calm way. He then lets out a powerful roar that creates a huge echo across the park and blasts them backward with force. As the situation continues, Leo manages to kidnap Sei and carries her away to one of the amusement park rides, keeping her close to the attraction area. While spending time there, the monster starts thinking that this world has even more beautiful and interesting things than what he saw back in Megano, which surprises him in his own thoughts. Sei then slowly begins teaching him many things about this world, especially the things Rokuro once explained to her, and she talks to him in a friendly way. Soon after, Rokuro and Binio finally find Sei safely sitting on one of the rides inside the park. The monster then appears again, and instead of attacking them, he suddenly starts crying without warning, showing confusion and sadness. Out of nowhere, two 12 Guardian members show up, including Sakura and Miku, and they immediately move in and attack the monster without hesitation. After that, the monster gets purified completely and slowly vanishes into the air, leaving no trace behind. The following day, Rokuro is watching a baseball match of a famous pitcher named Kawase. During one of the games, a dragon spot suddenly opens inside the stadium dome, causing most of the people in the crowd to collapse and become unconscious on the ground. Meanwhile, Rokuro and Binio are on the phone with Mayura, talking about dragon spots that are appearing all over the town in different places. Just then, the old man informs Mayura that a new dragon spot has just opened in Aichi. Soon after, Rokuro and Binio head to that location, where they discover a Basara named Yamato controlling the monsters and causing chaos. To support them, Kachin of the 12 Guardians, Narumi, arrives to help in the fight. It is also revealed that he is not alone, as he is accompanied by Tenku of the 12 Guardians, Cordelia, who also deals heavy damage to the monsters using her own abilities. After taking significant damage from all sides, Yamato eventually vanishes from the area. Later, Rokuro and Narumi get into an argument about how they should search for more dragon spots, each of them having different opinions on what to do next. Just then, a famous baseball player named Kawase approaches the group, and everyone immediately shows admiration and respect for him because of how skilled and well-known he is in his sport. After that, the team goes back to the battlefield to deal with Yamato, who is still causing non-stop destruction all over the city. Everyone starts using their own techniques to attack him and try to deal damage, but at first they struggle a lot because Yamato turns out to be far stronger than they expected. However, Narumi steps in and uses his special technique to hold the monster back, even though the monster does not seem to be holding anything back at all because of some hidden source of power boosting him. After that, Kawas decides to help Rokuro and Binio in the fight, and the three of them combine their abilities together to form a strong attack that finally manages to seal the barrier successfully. At the same time, Narumi and Cordelia continue their own fight against the monster, and after a tough battle they eventually manage to defeat it completely, bringing the situation under control. Meanwhile, two Baseras named Momochi and Chijiwa are secretly planning something evil when they are approached by a mysterious person wearing a mask. The masked man tells them about the twin stars, who have been traveling around the country and sealing the dragon spots that are appearing everywhere. He then gives them a new objective and tells them that he wants Rokuro and Binio eliminated. On the other hand, while traveling together, Binio tells Rokuro that Asahi is a very strange girl because when they first met her in Magano, she was completely fine even while surrounded by miasma. Rokuro shares a theory of his own and says that she might be the child of an exorcist who possessed exceptionally powerful spiritual abilities. At the same time, two unusual members of the 12 Guardians successfully close another dragon spot and then spend some time talking about a messy comic series. As the twin stars continue heading toward their next destination, they pass the time by playing rock paper scissors with Asahi. Unfortunately, Asahi ends up losing the game and starts crying because of it. Binio then teaches everyone a simple trick for winning the game more easily, and Rokuro deliberately loses on purpose afterward so that Asahi can feel happy again and enjoy herself. Not long after that, they are suddenly ambushed by a group of monsters. Fortunately, the person driving the van manages to safely get the twin stars to the ground without anyone getting hurt. After that, the Basara Momochi and Chijiwa appear and openly declare that they intend to kill them. However, Rokuro quickly pulls out his red talisman and immediately uses his powers against them. The battle begins with Binio transforming into her Basara form, which greatly increases her strength and abilities, while Rokuro launches his Meteor Smash attack at the enemies. Unfortunately, the two Basara block the attack with ease. At first, Rokuro and Binio struggle badly against their opponents, and even their powerful combination attack fails to have any effect. Before they can come up with another plan, the twin Basara manage to capture and tie up both of them, leaving the twin stars in a very dangerous situation with no easy way out. Just as the Basara prepare to strike Rokuro and Binio, Asahi suddenly steps forward and unleashes an attack that completely surprises everyone present, including both allies and enemies. At that moment, three members of the 12 Guardians also arrive at the scene to help, including Kankuro, Kengo, and Arida. As the battle continues, Momochi suffers heavy injuries and is left in terrible condition. Seeing this, another Basara named Kuranishi decides that Momochi is no longer useful and transfers his remaining power to Chijiwa instead, believing that Momochi has become nothing more than a burden. The following day, Binio receives a message from Mayura, who teases her about having romantic-like time with Rokuro during their trip. Meanwhile, Mayura is also busy helping injured victims using her healing powers, and that alone is enough to make her feel happy and useful. Later on, Mayura goes to the portal and fights an impurity, and she manages to land some solid attacks and deal damage to it. However, she still lacks skill in a few areas and needs support from her teammates to finish the job properly. That night, Mayura starts feeling bad again, thinking she was just a burden during today's battle. When she goes to the bathroom to take a shower, she accidentally sees Ikaruga Commando, which shocks her so much that she quickly panics and shuts the door. After everyone finishes their daily tasks, the old man explains that the 12 Guardians are currently busy sealing dragon spots all across the country. After that, Ikaruga privately talks with Sagan and says that Mayura must have real talent since she is his daughter. But Sagan responds that although she learns enchantments at a steady pace, she does not actually have any special natural talent. The next morning, Mayura trains very hard, because the more she realizes how weak she feels, the more she pushes herself to become stronger. Just then, Ikaruga arrives, and Mayura immediately calls him a freak for peeking at her workout outfit. Mayura then asks if he can spar with her, but he refuses and says he cannot waste time sparring with someone as weak as her. After scolding her for being the weak daughter of someone as skilled as Sagan, he hands her a stick and finally agrees to spar. From that point on, Mayura ends up walking around with bandages covering her face because of Ikaruga's very harsh and intense training methods. During one of their practice sessions, Ikaruga teaches her about the air fissure bullet technique that Rokuro often uses in fights. He explains that this spell is useful for supporting allies from a distance, and since it does not require direct contact with the enemy, It fits someone like her who is easily scared. Mayura then decides to practice it seriously because she wants to become stronger and not fall behind Rokuro and Binio anymore. While she is training, Ikaruga notices that her control over her spiritual power is actually quite good, showing that she has some natural sense for it. After that, Ikaruga opens up about his past and tells her that Seigen once saved his life, and ever since then, Seigen has become his greatest goal and role model as an exorcist. The next day, Mayura goes on her first mission with Ikaruga and manages to perform slightly better than her past self. Ikaruga acknowledges her dedication when she saved a girl's life over hers. Meanwhile, Subaru informs Arima that she has discovered the exact location where Kuranishi damaged the massive AIM no Mihashira. Arima is pleased to hear this news because it means they can finally start taking proper action to prevent any more dragon spots from opening in the future. At the same time, Rokuro, Binio, and Issei are enjoying a relaxing bath together after not having a chance to do so for a long time. Once they finish, Binio receives a call from Mayura's phone number. However, since Binio still does not really know how to use a phone properly, Rokuro answers the call for her. To his surprise, the person on the other end is Seigen, who immediately calls Rokuro an idiot for trying to talk to his daughter. Sei then quickly grabs the phone from Rokuro and happily tells Seigen that she just shared a big bath with Binio. After that, Rokuro takes the phone back, and Seigen informs him that a massive dragon spot has appeared in Kumano and that he wants him to head there right away. When the call ends, Seigen starts thinking that if a dragon spot has opened in Kumano, then the enemy is likely heading there as well. He realizes that if that happens, Rokuro and Binio may not be strong enough to handle the situation on their own. Meanwhile, Rokuro and Binio finally arrive at their destination and tell Sei to stay safely inside the van while they go and seal the dragon spot. As they make their way toward it, Rokuro tells Binio that he is glad to see her getting along with Sei and even joking around with her more often. Before they can continue, they are suddenly attacked by powerful laser shots fired by a mysterious enemy. A Basara named Kinesa then appears and announces that he has come to kill them today. However, instead of being intimidated, Rokuro asks him whether he really believes they have no chance of winning as long as he keeps his distance from them. Rokuro and Binio then activate their special techniques and rush forward to attack him, but Kinesa continues keeping a safe distance between them, clearly doing so for a specific reason. Kinesa tells them that he wields enough power to annihilate most exorcists in an instant, so he thinks that they are no match for him. The fight starts off with the duo attacking Kinesa with their resonance technique, which doesn't work on him. Before Kinesa could attack Binio, Sei shows up and protects her using her powers. Just then, one of the strongest 12 guardians named Tenma shows up to help the twin stars. Tenma then kills Kinesa using a single strike and closes the dragon spot in an instant. On their way back, Sei and Binio happily sing the opening theme song of AniMaan, which is going to receive an anime adaptation very soon. During the trip, Rokuro asks Sei what she wants to become when she grows up, but before she has a chance to answer, they arrive in Kyoto. As soon as they get there, Sei becomes excited by the huge number of people walking around the city. Binio explains that this busy atmosphere is a normal part of Kyoto's culture and everyday life. At that moment, Tenma steps in and reminds them that his job was only to bring Sei safely to Kyoto, and now it is time for the twin stars to take care of the rest on their own. Since Binio originally comes from Kyoto, she spends time telling Rokuro and Issei about the city's traditions, culture, and local foods. She even explains that ohagi is one of the favorite dishes enjoyed by many people living in Kyoto. While exploring the city, Issei notices two girls wearing beautiful kimonos and becomes curious about them. After seeing her interest, Binio decides to let Sei try wearing a kimono herself. Soon after, Binio's spirit companion shows them a Kyoto guidebook that he brought along, which turns out to be very useful for helping them explore the city. Just then, Rokuro receives a call from Arima, who informs him that he has finally discovered a way to stop the dragon spots from opening altogether. Arima then tells Rokuro to drop by the Exorcist Union headquarters and make sure he brings Sei. Binio then tells Rokuro that they should head to the Exorcist Union headquarters to find the answer about why Sei is related to all that. Back at headquarters, a dark spirit suddenly launches an attack at Arima's chest. However, Arima manages to avoid the strike and briefly speaks with the Basara responsible for the attack. Rather than fighting Arima directly, the Basara decides to retreat, but Arima is determined not to let him escape again. Arima manages to catch up to Basara inside a portal, and the two finally begin their battle. Using his powerful techniques, Arima deals heavy damage to the Basara and starts gaining the upper hand. Just when things seem to be going well for him, the Basara uses a special ability and traps Arima with his spell power, turning the situation around. Meanwhile, Sei leads Rokuro and Binio to a hidden underground area where they discover a massive tree unlike anything they have seen before. There, they meet Subaru, who reveals a shocking truth about Sei. She explains that Sei is actually part of the Aim no Mihashira, the giant tree that separates Megano from the human world. Subaru further reveals that a Basara secretly infiltrated the tree and damaged one of its branches, weakening the barrier between the two worlds and causing the dragon spots to appear. The damaged branch eventually took the form of Sai. Because of this, Subaru explains that the only way to completely stop the dragon spots from opening is for Sai to return to the tree, meaning Rokuro and Binio will have to part ways with her. After that, the group finds a true dragon spot that is so huge that so many impurities are falling from it. Subaru tells Rokuro that when it first opened, they all performed a ritual which is similar to the one that two of them use resonance to do. Subaru then explains that it seemed to solve it at first, but smaller dragon spots began opening all over the place, no matter how many they closed. After realizing that, Arima asked them to look for the root cause, and they finally found it. The problem lies where the branch is broken, and to restore it, the 12 guardians needed to go to 6 different spots to perform a ritual. Once the power gathered at 5 points of a star is combined into one, the broken Aim no Mihashira branch is meant to be healed by pouring that energy into it. Because of this plan, they decide to assign 2 guardians to each point, where one person performs the ritual while the other protects them by fighting off incoming enemies. Sometime later, the other guardians inform Subaru that Arima was attacked directly by Kuranishi, and after that incident he has gone missing. Meanwhile, Rokuro and Binio continue fighting impurity together in order to protect and save the civilians who are caught in the chaos. The 12 guardians eventually gather at all the points and begin performing the ritual at the same time, and it starts to look like it is actually working. To support them, Rokuro and Binio keep fighting off the impurity that keep appearing around the area. Subaru believes that by now the damaged branch should have started growing back, and that the dragon spot should finally be disappearing. At first, it really looks like the dragon spot is gone, and Rokuro and Binio feel relieved and happy because it seems like Sei will be able to stay with them. However, the ritual suddenly fails badly, and the dragon spot appears again as if nothing changed. Arima's assistant then comes to Rokuro and Binio and explains that what they saw earlier was only an illusion, not the real closure of the dragon spot. Since Rokuro and Binio do not want to lose Asahi, they try their best to purify the dragon spot on their own, but even their efforts do not work. When they turn around, they see that Sei is slowly returning back toward the tree, meaning she is about to disappear. Realizing this, they are forced to say their final goodbye. Sei then gives her last farewell message to the twin stars, telling them that she is truly grateful for everything they have done for her. Binio cannot hold back her feelings and starts crying because she was never able to fulfill her promise of showing Sei around all of Kyoto. In the end, Sei completely vanishes into thin air, and only after that does the dragon spot finally disappear as well. The next day, Binio's pet Kanako sits with Mayura after sleeping for quite some time now. Mayura thinks that he had almost no spell power left when he came last night and spent all this time sleeping. Kanako then explains to her about his trip with the twin stars and Sei, which makes him tear up since he misses Sei already. However, it's all because of Sei that the sky has finally cleared up and the people who were affected by those dragon spots are starting to heal. Mayura then notices that Binio hasn't come to check on him since she always does. Hearing that, Kanako gets mad and runs back to the mansion where he finds Sei's drawings and a toy that breaks his heart even more. Kanako then remembers about the time when Binio became his master for the first time, and even though he was a small Shikigami, he is said to be highly competent in his service for people. Kanako and Binio are then left alone in a room so they can talk, but Binio simply keeps staring at him without saying much, which starts to annoy him greatly. From that day onward, Kanako decides that he will help Binio with anything she needs. As time passes, Binio slowly begins expressing her emotions more openly, and this makes Kanako happy because he has always wanted to support and serve her. Eventually, Binio grows older and starts training under Subaru alongside her other duties. Because of the intense training, she often ends up completely exhausted. Whenever Kanako sees her in that condition, he thinks Subaru is pushing her too hard for no good reason. However, Binio quickly defends her master and tells him not to speak badly about Subaru. Wanting to cheer her up, Kanako gives her a packet of ohagi that he bought especially for her. Unfortunately, Binio does not seem interested at all and coldly tells him to leave. Feeling angry by her reaction, Kanako walks away and ends up taking out his frustration by throwing rocks into a nearby lake. Just then, he overhears Subaru walking by while talking to the granny about Binio torturing herself with harsh training that is not going to make her stronger. She even mentions that Binio saw her parents killed by impurity before her eyes, which surprises Kanako as he feels bad for her. After that, he runs to Binio and apologizes to her for saying nonsense when he didn't know about her parents. However, Binio asks him if he brought those ohagi for her, which she actually likes, and thanks him for it. Back in the present, Kanako manages to find Binio, who went to the Seiko dorm looking for Kanako. That evening, they all sit down to eat, and now they have an extra plate of food that was supposed to be for Sei. Rokuro then tries to cheer them up, saying they can't keep crying forever about Sei and should move on. The next day, the twin stars visit the Hinatsuki dorm site where Rokuro first began to walk the path of an exorcist. He also says that it's what has given him strength, and Binio mentions that it's the same for her since Rokuro gave her strength. On their way back, Rokuro thinks about how Binio and he were chasing the same goal when they first met, which was to exorcise all evil impurity. They continue to talk about their entire journey together up till now, and how they found themselves getting wrapped up in something pretty huge. Rokuro also mentions that when he saw the 12 Guardians fight the Basara during their trip with Sai, he was reminded all over again that they still can't even begin to compare them. Meanwhile, the 12 Guardians are still looking for Arima in that portal, wondering if he really did lose to Kuranashi. Back in the forest, Rokuro tells Binio that it is not only the 12 Guardians they need to surpass in the future, but also the powerful Basara they encountered during their journey. As they make their way back to the bus, they think about Kamui, who is still eagerly waiting for another chance to fight the twin stars. Binio then reminds Rokuro that Sai is now fighting to maintain the barrier that keeps Megano separated from the human world. Hearing that, Rokuro begins wondering what they can really do besides continuing to fight stronger enemies. Binio then brings up the idea of giving birth to Miko, the child prophesied to play an important role in the future. Soon, the twin stars arrive back at the dormitory, where the old man informs them that everyone is currently busy helping with the hospital renovations. Rokuro then says that there is something important he wants to ask both him and Seigen. Because of that, Rokuro decides to meet Seigen and ask him about his past. Once they are together, Rokuro asks where he was before he started living at the Hinatsuki dorm. Seigen explains that he found Rokuro in Megano 10 years ago and brought him back to the human world. After hearing this, Rokuro realizes that Sai's situation was very similar to his own, which makes him think more deeply about his origins and where he truly came from. Just then, Kanako informs the twin stars that there has been a sighting of a powerful impurity nearby and that it appears to be unusually strong. Rokuro and Binio immediately head to Megano to investigate. However, when they arrive, they cannot sense any impurity presence at all. Instead, the same female Basara they met suddenly appears before them. Rokuro takes the opportunity to ask her several questions, including what the Basara are really after and what their goals are. Unfortunately, she responds to every question in a silly and unserious manner, making it impossible to get any useful information from her. After that, Basara suddenly starts playing her strange rock music and invites Rokuro to dance with her. Binio immediately stops him from going along with it, not wanting him to play into Basara's antics. However, as things continue, Binio unexpectedly ends up dancing with Rokuro herself, turning the strange encounter into an even more awkward situation. Later, Rokuro and Binio go to the same place where they found Rokuro 10 years ago. Rokuro thought that he might remember something by coming here, but he didn't, so he decided to take a look around. Meanwhile, Arima's assistant notices the danger coming and asks one of the workers to recall the 12 Guardians immediately. At Loroi residence, everyone surrounds one of the 12 Guardians, and a woman tells him that the kids are worried that 12 Guardians are active again, which could mean that something unfortunate is going to happen. On the other hand, 12 Guardians also talk about how they want to find out what this is about and get back to finding Arima. That night, all of the 12 Guardians gather for an important meeting, and many of them suspect that something major has happened since they were all called together so suddenly. During the meeting, Arima's assistant steps forward and informs everyone that he recently received an oracle concerning Arima's disappearance. He then reveals the shocking news that Arima has passed away. Upon hearing this, the entire room is filled with anger and disbelief. Leroy becomes especially furious and even rushes toward the assistant, believing that he must be lying because he cannot accept the news. Meanwhile, Kuranishi is spending time with one of the Basara, who says that he wants to become even stronger so that one day Kuranishi can take over his body. Kuranishi then explains that the exorcists believe they have been purifying and removing miasma all this time, but in reality they have been slowly accumulating that miasma within their own bodies without realizing it. The following day, the story shifts to Narukami Private Academy, where Rokuro and the others discover that Ikaruga will be studying alongside them. When Rokuro sees Mayura and Ikaruga casually talking to each other, he realizes that the two have become surprisingly close in a very short amount of time. Curious about his presence, Binio asks what brings one of the 12 guardians to their school. Ikaruga explains that an order has been issued to subjugate the Basara, and because of that there is a strong possibility that a Basara is somewhere near the school. After hearing this, Rokuro asks Ikaruga to train him because he wants to become stronger. The girls also express their desire to improve their abilities as well. However, Ikaruga refuses the request at first and shows little interest in training them. Not willing to give up so easily, Mayura challenges him to a fight in an attempt to prove herself, and the others also join in, hoping to convince him to take their training seriously. Meanwhile, Miku and Sakura are fighting against Basara, and Sakura is even more furious at Basara for killing her father. Sakura explains that she killed her father and she has not once forgotten the name Moro in the time since. The Basara says that she has killed and devoured no small number of humans, so she doesn't remember her father. The battle continues with both of them going against each other, and Basara continues to mock her father's death so she could get emotional. However, the Basara ends up beating up Sakura badly, but then Miku shows up after killing a monster and attacks the Basara. After that, the fight continues, and the Basara also manages to land an attack on Miku. Miku quickly responds by using her technique to strike back, and during that moment of confusion, they manage to escape from the scene. The story then shifts into a flashback showing Sakura as a child when she first meets Miku for the first time. Returning to the present, Miku and Sakura is seen hiding behind a wall while quietly talking about their situation and their past. Miku tells Sakura that if she is unable to fight, she should return to the real world by herself instead of putting herself in danger. However, Sakura refuses and says that she will fight no matter what, because after finally coming face to face with the target of her vengeance, she cannot run away in shame anymore. Just then, the Basara appears again, and Miku immediately steps forward. She activates her technique on a teddy bear, which suddenly transforms into a massive monster ready for battle. Miku manages to gain the upper hand and deals heavy damage to the Basara. However, the Basara responds by increasing its own size and power. It then mercilessly tears apart Miku's teddy bear and grabs her before she can escape. Just when the situation starts looking hopeless, Sakura arrives and delivers the finishing blow, successfully slaying the Basara and securing their victory. That night, Rokuro spends some time reading about the most powerful exorcist in history, a person who tried to guide society in the right direction. He learns that this legendary exorcist was also responsible for creating the Aim no Mahashara, and that it is largely because of his efforts that the world remains relatively safe even now. The next day, Rokuro trains intensely with Sagan at the training grounds, but despite all his effort, he is still no match for his master. Later, Binio arrives and asks why he keeps pushing himself so hard on his own. Rokuro admits that he feels frustrated and disappointed with himself because he believes he is still too weak. Later at school, Rokuro tells Mayura and Binio that they need to become much stronger, otherwise the powerful exorcists around them will never see them as valuable assets. Just then, some students excitedly inform them that a new boy is transferring into their class. To everyone's surprise, the new transfer student turns out to be Ikaruga. Later, Kuranishi approaches Momochi and Chijuwa and talks about how they have been trapped here for 1,000 years all because of the exorcists. He then shows a talisman that he had the exorcists he drew into Megano create this, and now they can easily move to the real world. On the other hand, Rokuro approaches Ikaruga in order to convince him to train him or at least give him advice. However, Ikaruga refuses straight away, and when he gets home, he tells Sagan that the new head exorcist believes there's a chance the Basara will target the twin stars. Sagan then asks Ikaruga why he does not spend time with other people and make some friends. However, Ikaruga replies that he does not need friends and sees no reason to have them. Meanwhile, Mayura is at Binio's house helping her with cooking, because Binio wants to prepare something delicious for Rokuro. At the same time, Rokuro is eating dinner at the dormitory, where everyone tells him that he should go back home since Binio has probably cooked a meal for him. They all assume that her cooking must be excellent and that he is lucky to have someone making food for him. However, Rokuro quickly ruins that image by explaining that Binio's cooking is actually so bad that it completely upsets his stomach, and he claims that he cannot keep eating her terrible dishes anymore. Unfortunately for him, Binio suddenly appears and overhears everything he says. She immediately becomes furious at him for speaking so badly about her cooking. When Binio reveals that she has prepared curry for him, Rokuro completely freaks out because he has been forced to eat the same curry almost every day for the past month. Seeing the argument unfold, Sagan tells Rokuro that if he wants to call himself a man, then he should stop complaining and simply eat the meal that has been prepared for him. Once Rokuro is done eating that curry, he goes back to the training ground to practice so that he doesn't fall behind others. The next day, the group runs into another Basara that turns out to be Chijuwa, who traps Rokuro and Binio. Using his enchantment powers, he says that he will kill them and avenge Momochi. Binio tries to tell him that they did fight his partner, but they were not the ones who did such a horrible thing to him. During the fight, they notice that Chijuwa's powers are even stronger than before. Using the strings technique, Chijuwa manages to capture Rokuro, but Ikaruga shows up and charges at him. Soon, Ikaruga notices that Chijuwa's strings are so powerful that they even deform his spell powers. Chijuwa then manages to trap Ikaruga as well using his strings and asks who they are going to kill next. Ikaruga then starts suffering because of the pain that the strings are giving him, and he ends up falling on the ground. Chijuwa then asks his partner how could he get rid of the others, and he replies that he can brutally torture them. Meanwhile, the 12 guardians are separated in different parts of the town to look for backup or if there are any signs of impurity in town. Back in the battle, Ikaruga tries his best to resist the strings while Binio and Mayura try to attack them. After that, they all manage to run away, so Chijuwa decides to string the entire building, which is going to make it hard for them to escape. However, the group successfully escapes from the building, and once they are safe, Rokuro scolds Ikaruga for acting recklessly earlier. He points out that the strings surrounding them could have easily killed him if things had gone wrong. Using one of her abilities, Mayura removes the strings that are still attached to Ikaruga and explains how she discovered that the strings could be cut apart much more easily than they first thought. After that, the team comes together and discusses a plan for fighting Chijuwa and his partner. During the discussion, Mayura points out that exorcists may be powerful, but no matter how strong someone is, there is always a limit to what they can accomplish alone. She specifically tells Ikaruga, who prefers fighting by himself, that exorcists are meant to work as teams so they can cover each other's weaknesses and support one another. Afterward, Rokuro and Ikaruga confront Chijuwa, who has now reached his final form. This time, Chijuwa is no longer overwhelming them and is actually starting to struggle in the battle. While fighting him, Rokuro tries to attack him mentally as well as physically. He argues that Basara are supposed to be evil creatures and should not care about their friends or companions. By saying this, Rokuro attempts to shake Chijuwa's resolve and weaken his confidence during the fight. Following that, Ikaruga also transforms into his own final form, surprising Rokuro with the power he has been hiding. Determined to prevent any more exorcists from losing their lives, Ikaruga charges directly at Chijuwa without hesitation. The clash is incredibly fierce, and both fighters suffer severe wounds as a result of the attack. Even so, Ikaruga refuses to back down and eventually lands a decisive final blow that pierces straight through Chijuwa's chest. However, before dying, Chijuwa makes one last desperate move and uses his powers to drag the hostages toward their deaths. Just as the captives seem doomed, Rokuro steps in and uses a newly learned technique. With this ability, he successfully releases the hostages from Chijuwa's control and saves them before it is too late, bringing the battle to an end. The next day, Rokuro trains with Binio at the mansion, while Mayura is furious that the Exorcist Union has called Ikaruga back again. Rokuro and Binio both tell Mayura that they do not care about anything else right now, since their only focus is getting stronger. Meanwhile, Ikaruga meets with the other guardians and asks what is going on that requires the entire 12 guardians to be summoned like this. Arima's assistant replies that the situation is still in the process of unfolding and that things are becoming more serious by the moment. Meanwhile, the 12 Guardians discover a sinister concentration of spell power that has been building up throughout the Tokyo area. Arima's assistant explains that the spell power must have been planted long ago, and that everyone was so distracted by recent events that they failed to notice the ritual taking place behind the scenes. As they continue investigating, Subaru realizes that the clusters of spell power are not appearing randomly at all. After studying the pattern more closely, she discovers that the center point of everything is Narukami. At that same moment, Kuranishi takes control of television screens across the entire nation and openly reveals himself to the public. Right after that, a massive barrier appears, large enough to completely surround an entire town. Seeing how serious the situation has become, Arima's assistant explains that the only way to stop this disaster is to carry out the Rikijin Shinka ritual before things get even worse. Just then, the 12 Guardians begin performing the ritual, and since Sagan is not present, Arima's assistant takes on the role of his substitute. However, Kuranishi interferes by summoning impurity across the world to keep everyone distracted and busy. At the same time, he also deploys a barrier around Narukami, making the situation even more difficult for the exorcists to handle. Meanwhile, Atsushi and another boy inform Sagan that the earthquake has caused fires and explosions all over the town. Sagan says that they are once again caught in another serious mess, and he explains that ever since the trouble with the dragon spot started, something has been bothering him. Because of that, he has been searching through the Exorcist Union's records for information, and he found a case that is very similar to what is happening now. He explains that 6 years ago, 7 villages in the kingdom of Noto suddenly rose up into the sky. On the other hand, Rokuro and Binio are shocked when they see another dragon spot appear, along with Kuranishi, who finally removes his mask. Binio is surprised to see that both of his eyes are completely normal, and Kuranishi explains that the more spell power Basara gain, the closer they become to humans. Soon after, a massive monster begins destroying the entire city once again. From a huge structure floating in the air, it fires lasers and releases smaller monsters that turn humans into stone, causing chaos everywhere as the destruction continues. Kuranishi then speaks to the duo, telling them that there is nowhere they can escape anymore because the impurity tentacles can reach and track any location. He also explains that unless the glowing bulb located on top of the massive impurity structure is destroyed, the monster will continue regenerating endlessly. On top of that, he reveals that all the civilians will be killed in about 2 hours if nothing is done. Hearing this, Rokuro quickly pulls out his talisman and tries to attack Kuranishi at full power, but his strike does not connect. Kuranishi then escapes through a portal, leaving the battlefield. After that, the exorcists regroup to make a proper plan. Binio also realizes that Kuranishi is the one responsible for Sae's disappearance earlier. Sagan and Mayura then head out to destroy the glowing bulb on top of the massive structure, while Rokuro and Binio stay behind and try to fight the huge tentacle-like monster from the ground. Meanwhile, the other exorcists focus on evacuating the civilians. At the same time, Sagan does his best to destroy the bulb and activates his powerful technique known as Divine Armament. Even with that, the bulb easily overpowers him, and Sagan ends up in a dangerous situation along with Mayura, who is now also struggling to keep up against its overwhelming power. After that, Rokuro and Binio charge at the tentacle and use their resonance attack, which pulls the miasma out of it. Rokuro wonders what Kuranishi is really trying to achieve, but from Kuranishi's point of view, everything is going according to plan, and all he needs now is a distraction. Back inside the bulb, Mayura fires air bullets at the monsters while her father tries to cut through the bulb, but it keeps regenerating every time it is damaged. Sagan has already run out of most of his energy and is struggling to keep fighting, yet he still manages to defeat many of the monsters around him. Kuranishi then walks toward them, and when Sagan tries to attack, the strike is blocked by a shield that Kuranishi creates in front of himself. Kuranishi then throws Sagan aside and asks whether he can truly repent for the crimes he has committed. He then reveals Mayura's mother and tells her that Sagan was also responsible for killing her brother. In a flashback, Mayura's mother is working in a laboratory. Since she is already running late, she quickly gathers her belongings and prepares to leave. Just before she can go, her brother arrives to see her. A short time later, Sagan appears wearing a mask. He then kills her brother and explains that the man has to be eliminated because it is required under the rules of the Exorcist organization. Sagan then sends an electric shock into her head, making her forget everything about both him and her brother. Back in the present, Mayura tells her father that Sagan must have had a reason for doing that, and even now she still loves him very much. Kuranishi then explains that they are taking part in a game where they have to save Mayura's mother. If they fail, her spell power will slowly be drained away until she eventually dies first. Meanwhile, the 12 Guardians are busy fighting monsters in other places, but there are far more monsters than they ever expected, making the battle much harder. Back inside the bulb, Sagan uses his special talisman and transforms into the Lotus Tiger Cannon, which is his strongest ability. In an instant, he strikes Kuranishi through the chest and then changes back to his normal form because he does not have much power left. Kuranishi quickly heals the wound and says that Sagan's efforts are impressive and that he puts up a great fight despite his condition. Sagan then tells Mayura to leave, but she decides to stay and fight with Kuranishi to prove that she is not a useless exorcist. Eventually, Mayura uses her true powers and asks Bayako for more strength, and once she recites some words, the power of a true White Lotus cannon comes inside her. After that, she charges at Kuranishi and manages to land a blow on him. With that, she destroys the bulb and saves her own mother. Despite that, Kuranishi manages to flee from the location. Meanwhile, Subaru is struggling against the impurity and begins to feel like there is no end to the number of enemies appearing around him. Suddenly, four impurities combine their energy and merge into one giant monster. The same thing starts happening all across the city as other groups of impurity fuse together and transform into massive creatures. These giant impurities then clash directly with the 12 Guardians. Although the Guardians manage to land powerful attacks and deal heavy damage, the monsters quickly regenerate their wounds and continue fighting. At the same time, Rokuro and Binio make their way toward the main ball and decide to use their resonance power once again. However, Rokuro first separates from Binio and rushes away from the ball in order to draw its attention. His plan works, and he manages to strike its weak point. As Binio watches him, she thinks to herself that there is nothing they cannot overcome as long as they stay together. Just as they prepare to continue climbing toward the top of the tentacle, the bulb suddenly launches a powerful attack that strikes them head-on and sends them crashing into another building. Meanwhile, the 12 Guardians realize that the situation is becoming too dangerous to handle through normal combat alone. They prepare to summon and recite a powerful ritual, hoping it will finally put an end to all the chaos and trouble threatening the city. They share their energy among themselves and easily destroy all the impurities throughout the city. At the same time, Rokuro and Binio notices that the bulb is already out of energy, so it is taking the spell power dispersed into the air by them, and even by itself, gathering it back up with the tentacles. The twin stars then decides to move and destroy the main source of energy, so they just go above the tentacle as far as they can. Rokuro tells Binio that he is going to save Narukami, stop by his usual candy shop, and watch a whole bunch of Ohagi disappear. Binio then helps launch him upward, sending him as far as she possibly can. When Rokuro reaches the top, he notices that the bulb charger is gathering and storing a huge amount of spell power. Realizing what is happening, the twin stars combine their resonance power and unleash a full-force attack against the bulb charger. They put everything they have into the strike and successfully destroy it completely. As a result, the giant tentacle vanishes from the sky, and the twin stars begin falling straight toward the ground. While they are falling, Rokuro uses his spell power to make sure that both of them land safely. However, the city of Narukami is still dropping toward the earth. The 12 Guardians then gather their remaining strength and perform the Rikijin Shinka ritual, using all of their power to guide the city safely back to the ground. Once the city is finally secure and everyone believes the crisis is over, Kuranishi reveals what he has been planning all along. Taking advantage of the weakened state of the 12 Guardians after they exhaust themselves saving the city, he moves to capture them, intending to absorb their energy for his own purposes. After that, Kuranishi holds the 12 Guardians hostage. Rokuro asks Kuranishi what he plans to do in this strange place, and Kuranishi calmly replies that this is where he will meet his end. The 12 Guardians. He then shocks everyone by saying he has been planning all of this for over 1,200 years. He explains that whenever people get infected with miasma, the exorcists always step in to cleanse them, and he has used that system as part of his plan. Hearing this, the 12 Guardians become furious with him, blaming him for the countless lives that have been lost because of everything he has done. He then continues to tell his evil intentions that make the 12 Guardians furious. Kuranishi off the 12 Guardians first. Kuranishi uses his power to attack the 12 Guardians, and they end up losing all of their spell power. In their final moments, Ikaruga even apologizes to Rokuro for everything. After draining the energy from the 12 guardians, Kuranishi turns his attention to the twin stars. Rokuro and Binio fight back with their full strength, but they still cannot manage to land a single hit on him. Using the stolen powers of the 12 guardians, Kuranishi easily keeps control of the battle and even mocks the twin stars by using the guardians' own techniques against them. In the final moment, Tatara, who is a Shikigami rather than a human, breaks free from control and sacrifices himself in order to injure Kuranishi. To recover from the damage, Kuranishi absorbs Yuto's body, but this turns out to be a mistake, as he has actually been used the whole time. Yuto takes advantage of the situation and strikes back from within, destroying Kuranishi from the inside and absorbing all of the stolen powers. After that, Yuto reveals that he intentionally allowed himself to be captured by Kuranishi, who was planning to use him as part of his plan to fuse Megano and the human realm into a single reality. Despite that, Yuto was just waiting for an opportunity to absorb the Basara and obtain all the power he accumulated. Rokuro then tells Yuto that he never believed he was actually defeated, and that's the reason why over these 2 years, he trained hard. However, Yuto attacks Binio out of nowhere, who doesn't let her emotions get in the way, and calls Yuto a corrupt coward who is pure evil. On the other hand, Mayura and Seigen come across Ryugo and the others, and they are all shocked when they witness how badly the entire city has been damaged and how terrible the situation looks. During the ongoing battle, Yuto is able to successfully block every attack thrown at him by the twin stars, and he then takes the chance to try escaping from the fight. Rokuro and Binio chase after Yuto as he leads them to another location. There, Yuto explains that he has absorbed all of Saimai's powers, and through those powers he also learned the truth about Rokuro's past. After that, Yuto keeps trying to provoke Rokuro emotionally, but Binio warns Rokuro to stay calm so he does not lose his focus during the fight. Soon after this, Yuto traps Binio inside a barrier and relentlessly attacks her until she becomes completely unconscious. Rokuro, believing that Binio has been killed, becomes overwhelmed with rage and transforms into a form that no one has ever seen before. Seeing this transformation, Yuto reveals that Rokuro is actually an impurity himself. Before the situation escalates even further, Arima, who was actually still alive, suddenly appears. He manages to rescue the twin stars from danger and then quickly escapes with them from the battlefield. That evening, Binio finally regains consciousness, and everyone around her feels a strong sense of relief and happiness that she is safe and okay again. Meanwhile, Seigen questions Arima, asking him if there is something important he has not told them yet. In response, Arima explains that he will now share everything he saw and heard while performing the Pursuit of Ages ritual. Seigen then points out that Arima could not have completed such a ritual on his own, since it would normally require someone to push him into a near-death state in order to activate it properly. He adds that this is exactly why Arima used Kuranishi in the first place, to put him in that life-threatening situation. Arima then explains that he actually wanted to die, so he allowed Kuranishi to kill him on purpose. At that point, Arima reveals what he discovered through this ability. He learned that Saimai originally created Megano as a place to seal away and store humanity's leftover energy. However, over time, this accumulated energy began to concentrate and transform, eventually giving rise to even more powerful impurities, including beings like the Basara. Because of this growing problem, the 12 Guardians were later formed, and the Exorcist Union was established to fight against these threats. Arima further explains that Saimai understood this was only a temporary fix. Knowing this, Saimai secretly set many events into motion that would eventually lead to the advent of the twin stars. He also created the strongest impurity, known as the Cataclysm King, with the intention of wiping out humanity. Arima reveals that this terrifying being is actually Rokuro, meaning Rokuro himself is meant to become a major threat to the world. Finally, Arima states that in order for Rokuro to completely remove the energy stored inside his body and become fully human again, he must have a child together with Binio. That child would be Miko, and she would inherit Binio's powerful yang energy, allowing it to balance the energy within Rokuro. However, Rokuro gets furious, wondering why he would ask Binio to be with someone who isn't even a human, and he could never force her to do that. When Rokuro returns home, he finds the female Basara sitting on the couch. Rokuro then takes out his frustration and tells everything to her, but Basara tries to encourage him, saying he fulfilled his promise of protecting someone important to him. That night, Rokuro runs into Yuto, who is holding a bouquet of flowers, and tells him that he is waiting to fight him desperately. The following day, the old granny tells Binio, who is still feeling sad that if she does not eat properly, then her wounds are not going to heal easily. The granny also realizes that it is natural for Binio to feel this way since she has stayed inside this room ever since returning there. However, Binio still has doubts about Rokuro being impure and keeps wondering why he simply does not talk to her directly about everything. Meanwhile, the city of Narukami slowly continues repairing its damaged infrastructure with help from the exorcists, and Binio goes to meet Rokuro while everyone feels happy seeing that she is recovering soon. After noticing Rokuro's cold and dry response toward her, Atsushi asks him if he is starting to fall in love all over again after finally seeing his wife again after such a long time. Binio then tells Rokuro that she needs to ask him something important, but Rokuro quickly excuses himself by saying that he still has some work left to finish, leaving Binio completely heartbroken. After that, Rokuro runs far away from the area while carrying a box in his hands, and Arima suddenly appears before him and asks if the box is meant to be a present for his wife. Later, Arima has a discussion with Rokuro during which Rokuro explains that Yuto wants to fight him once again, and at this point he believes that he is the only person capable of defeating Yuto. Meanwhile, Mayura tells Binio that lately Rokuro has been distancing himself from everyone around him, almost as if something is deeply troubling him from the inside. Binio wants to share her own feelings and thoughts with Mayura, but she decides not to talk about them yet. While they are walking together, Binio notices that the Ohagi shop has been badly damaged, and the worker there becomes shocked after seeing Binio's weak condition. The worker then explains that keeping the shop open after everything that has happened would be too difficult, so they are planning to close it down completely. Once Binio returns home, she decides to start training again, which makes Mayura wonder why she is pushing herself so hard. Binio then openly admits that she loves Rokuro with all her heart, and at that same moment Rokuro suddenly arrives because he wants to speak with her. Thinking that the two of them are finally going to confess their love for each other, Mayura quietly steps out of the room to give them privacy. However, instead of confessing his feelings, Rokuro decides to end their duo because he does not want to risk Binio's life anymore. After Rokuro leaves the room, Binio suddenly collapses and falls unconscious onto the ground. After that, Rokuro goes to meet Yuto in order to fight him, and Yuto feels glad that Rokuro does not bring Binio along with him. Rokuro becomes furious and pulls out his red talisman while saying that he alone is more than enough to deal with Yuto. Yuto then explains that nobody can handle this place, which means nobody is going to interrupt their fun and they can continue fighting as much as they want. For the first time in a long while, Rokuro is far away from Binio and has to fight completely on his own. Meanwhile, Binio finally wakes up and starts wondering where Rokuro is at that moment. Mayura tells her that Rokuro does not return there or go back to the Psychodorm, and nobody has heard anything from him either. Binio quickly realizes that he must have gone to fight Yuto, so she immediately tries to leave. However, Arima suddenly appears in front of her. He asks what she can possibly do in her current condition, but Binio strongly replies that she and Rokuro are the twin star exorcists, so she is going to fight beside him no matter what happens. The old granny then tells Binio to stop thinking and talking about Rokuro because he already leaves her behind, and that clearly shows how he truly feels. Even so, Binio refuses to give up and says that they both promise to become stronger together, which is why she has to go no matter what. Arima then uses a special scent to make her fall asleep so that she cannot leave and interfere with Rokuro's battle. Back in the battle, Rokuro is going all in with Yuto, who is dodging every move that is coming his way easily. Yuto uses his cheap tricks to manipulate Rokuro mentally by bringing up his dead friends and talking about them. After that, they continue fighting and Rokuro uses his talisman to finally hit him this time. To his surprise, Rokuro tries to use resonance because he still cannot stop thinking about Binio and believes that she is somehow there with him. Yuto then badly beats him up and starts laughing, saying that this fight is so much fun that he could keep doing it forever. At the same time, Sagan arrives at the house to talk with Arima and explains that he wants to help Rokuro, but Arima refuses his offer. He explains that with the 12 guardians and most of the other exorcists unable to fight, Rokuro is the only person left who can stand against Yuto. During the fight, Yuto easily overpowers Rokuro again, which causes Rokuro to ask about his real intentions. However, Yuto answers that the only thing important to him is fighting Rokuro. The two boys keep fighting until Rokuro finally decides to unlock his impure powers. He hopes that if he loses control and transforms into the Cataclysm King, then the curse Arima placed inside his heart earlier at Rokuro's own request will end up killing him. Rokuro now starts taking the lead in the battle because of his new powers and continues beating Yuto, who feels that this is still not enough to finally break him. Meanwhile, Arima confronts his assistant Mikage, who then reveals that he is actually Saimai's Shikigami. Back at the fight, Rokuro continues attacking Yuto badly, yet not even a single smile disappears from Yuto's face. Rokuro then suddenly stops and asks if Yuto is trying to push him into losing control, and Yuto replies that if Rokuro had continued like that, he might have fully awakened as the Cataclysm King. However, Rokuro tells him that he is not going to become the Cataclysm King because all the people who have supported him through everything are now standing beside him. Even so, Yuto still wants to push Rokuro beyond his limits and decides that he is finally going to fight seriously now. He then pierces his own body, which transforms him into another powerful form, and the two of them continue clashing against each other in battle. Rokuro notices that his spell powers are leaking out because he is using power beyond what he can handle. In a flashback, Rokuro and Yuto were kids when Yuto thought that Rokuro was unlike anyone he'd ever met before. To him, he was almost refreshingly stupid, always bluntly honest, and passionate to the point of being obnoxious. At one point, Sagan forces them to train together inside a tiny room where they have no food at all except for a single pot of miasma. In the end, they somehow manage to survive for 3 whole days mainly because of Rokuro's help, and for the first time in many years Yuto finally feels truly happy. Back in the present time, Yuto tells Rokuro that the two of them are actually the same because they are the only people in the entire world who possess that same type of power. Meanwhile, Mikage explains to Arima that because Mahashira's yang energy was delivered to Binio before she was even born, Binio now has a twin brother who inherits an energy powerful enough to rival Rokuro's strength. Back at the battle, Yuto becomes completely driven to act as Rokuro's greatest enemy, but even after gaining powers far beyond his maximum limit, he still fails to defeat Rokuro. Yuto then threatens to attack the human world by opening a dragon spot. After hearing that threat, Rokuro becomes furious and strikes Yuto with one final attack while transforming into the Cataclysm King. Eventually, Rokuro completely loses control over himself and starts destroying the entire city. When Binio wakes up, she sees news reports showing a massive impurity destroying an entire city, and she quickly realizes that the creature is actually Rokuro. She immediately runs out of the house and tells Kanako to take her directly to where Rokuro is. Meanwhile, Arima confronts Mikage and tells him that for an entire 1,000 years, his fellow exorcists have devoted their lives to this mission, and he does not want all of their sacrifices and efforts to end up being wasted. However, Mikage explains that after Rokuro defeats Yuto, the spell power he absorbed from Kuranoshi and the 12 Guardians now exists inside the Cataclysm King. At the same time, Rokuro turns the granny and the old geezer into stone, which causes Sagan to realize that he is now going to have to fight as well. When Binio finally reaches outside, she discovers that people all across the city are slowly turning into stone. Arima then appears before Binio and explains that everything has happened exactly the way Saimai planned from the beginning, while also revealing that Mikage has secretly been involved in some of these events as well. After that, Binio tries to go after Rokuro, but Mikage appears in front of her and tells her that all of Rokuro's 16 years have been an unplanned anomaly, which is a waste. He also explains that those with weak spell power are turned to stone from a single exposure, and this purifying light will shine forth several times. As a result, only the people considered worthy of shaping the future will remain unaffected by everything that happens. Binio tells Mikage that what he is trying to do is the real waste instead. However, Mikage shows her the kind of world he wants to create, explaining that it will be a world without rage or sorrow and one where the established order is always followed by everyone. Even after seeing that vision, Binio says that the world looks more eerie and frightening to her rather than beautiful, and she explains that she wants to stay beside Rokuro until the very end no matter what happens. Mikage then tells her that he has the power to return Rokuro back into a human form, but once Rokuro changes back, she will no longer be able to meet him again. He further explains that the complete grand cleansing ritual will eventually be carried out by his true body, Saimai. After that, Mikage reveals that Binio herself is necessary for the grand cleansing because all the yang energy created by Mahashira has been gathering inside her for a very long time. He also explains that she must unite together with his true body, Saimai, and at first Binio appears to agree with what he is saying. Later, Binio decides to follow Mikage all the way to the bottom of the Mahashira tree, where the ritual finally begins as a giant circle appears and starts absorbing the Cataclysm King while the tree rises high above everything else. Arima then somehow manages to bring Rokuro back safely, and when Rokuro wakes up, he becomes completely shocked by everything around him. Arima explains that Rokuro had transformed into the Cataclysm King and stole the spell power of countless people during that time. After hearing this, Rokuro becomes furious and immediately asks Arima about the burial ritual that he had previously requested him to perform. Arima then explains that once Rokuro transformed into the Cataclysm King, the curse placed on his heart activated exactly according to their plan, but even that was still not enough to stop him. Because of this, Rokuro's heart repaired itself instantly, and as a result he completely became the Cataclysm King and ended up turning many innocent people into stone. Rokuro then starts losing his mind and keeps wondering why he is even still alive at all, but Kanako suddenly appears and tells him that the only reason he is still alive is because of Binio. Arima then explains that Binio is most likely trapped inside the cocoon where Saimai once was, and he also says that nobody besides Rokuro would even be capable of cracking it open. Suddenly, Suzu the Basara appears and starts dancing and singing around Rokuro in an attempt to make him feel better. Meanwhile, a talisman carrying Saimai's message appears before them and announces his complete revolution, which causes both Rokuro and Arima to strongly condemn his actions. After finally reaching the location, they rush toward the firing Mahashara with a small hope of somehow rescuing Binio, but in the end Rokuro decides to continue forward alone. Lastly, Rokuro reaches the top of the giant tree and finds Binio trapped inside a crystal cocoon. Rokuro then decides to use the talisman that Arima gave him earlier, which is said to be the only spell capable of destroying a talisman. He then uses one of Binio's pink hairs to connect the spell together and finally succeeds in breaking her free from the cocoon. Meanwhile, Arima fights Mikage head-on, and Mikage becomes shocked after realizing that Rokuro is actually using that spell to free Binio. At first, Mikage manages to seriously injure Arima and deal a huge amount of damage to him, but before he can continue his attack, Kamui the Basara suddenly appears and directly attacks Mikage. Mikage then asks Kamui why he decided to save Arima, and Arima quickly explains that Kamui only came there because he wants to fight strong opponents more than anything else. While the three of them continue fighting, Rokuro and Binio finally have an argument after being apart for such a long time. Binio then begins tearing up as she admits that she felt completely alone after noticing that Rokuro was no longer beside her, and she tells him that it was cruel for him to run away on his own just because of how he felt about being impurity. At that moment, Rokuro kisses Binio for the very first time, and after being apart for so long, the two of them decide to fight together once again. Suddenly, Arima's badly injured body falls down from above, making both Rokuro and Binio realize how powerful Mikage truly is. When they finally reach the top, Kamui decides to leave the rest of the battle to them before quietly leaving the area. Mikage then traps both Rokuro and Binio using strange strings, but Rokuro quickly manages to escape by using his powers. At the same time, flower petals begin floating all across the city, and Mikage explains that once those petals fall down completely, the nectar of kindness will spread throughout the entire world. He further claims that nobody can stop this event from happening anymore and reveals that while Binio was trapped inside the cocoon, he absorbed all of her yang energy for himself. Rokuro and Binio then combine their powers and attempt to attack Mikage together, but their first attack fails to affect him at all. After that, the Twin Star Exorcists decide to convert their powers into spell power and launch an attack directly toward the core reactor. Despite trying with all their strength, the Twin Star Exorcists still fail to destroy the main core reactor, and Mikage tells them that even though they kept resisting for so long, it was the contradictions within humanity that created the impurities in the first place. After saying that, he leaves both Rokuro and Binio powerless on the ground. Just then, Asahi appears before them and encourages them not to give up because they are not the kind of people who would ever quit so easily. Soon after that, visions of all the 12 Guardians also begin appearing one by one, and each of them encourages the Twin Stars while reminding them about their goal of one day becoming even stronger than all of them. After hearing those words, Rokuro and Binio become fully determined to stop Mikage once and for all and destroy Mahashara completely. After the Mahashara is finally destroyed, all the spell power that had been drained from people gets released back across the entire world. After everything finally comes to an end, life slowly returns back to normal. Rokuro becomes engaged to Binio, while Ryugo also gets married to Haruka. Soon, the 12 Guardians spend time visiting their families, and everyone finally continues living their lives happily ever after. That's all for today, my fellow men of culture. If you guys enjoyed watching the video, make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more anime recaps.